It's Ramsey Dewey here in Shanghai, China. I'm corresponding via the internet with Jourdan, Chow, and with Nils. We're going to talk about self-defense and some terrible fights we're going to watch together and comment on. We're going to start with this one we found on YouTube. It's a guy showing a self-defense technique against one of the most common scenarios presented in these videos, which is the deadly poisonous wrist grab, which will instantly kill you unless you manage to break that grip. Obviously, I'm joking, but before we take a look at that video, just talking about that wrist grab, why do you guys think it is that is like the first thing that all self-defense, like all women's self-defense videos teach? Some type of usually terrible escape from a wrist grab.
Nils can go first.
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't know. It's not like I don't think you. I think that you shouldn't teach it. So I don't know why it's like the staple dish. So it's in every video, and it's normally like the first thing they teach you. I don't know.
Very weird. Yeah. Nobody grabs you like that. Nobody grabs you like this.
Yeah.
Unless if you're like a child, like a parent doing it to a kid. Like, don't play with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you hear about kids getting abducted or kidnapped, often they'll get grabbed by somebody, pretend to be their parent, like, come with me, little Billy. Little Billy's like, you're not my dad, let me go. And that can be very confusing to onlookers, but very few people teach children self-defense. It's always women's self-defense, starting with the deadly wrist grab. Mm-hmm. And there's so much time and energy spent on this wrist grab, probably more than anything else in the women's self-defense industry. And again, I'm not a woman, but I have never ever once been grabbed by the wrist in a violent altercation outside of, say, if you're already grappling, like if you're wrestling, you're tying up, you have a collar tie, you're trying for an arm drag or something with an experienced wrestler who might try to grab your wrist in order to set up a technique like an arm drag, or you use that arm drag to get an ankle pick or something. But people on the streets are not going to be doing that stuff. So it's just absolutely confounding to me.
Yeah, I guess like it's unlikely. The point is what you said, is like, why do you concentrate on doing that? Why is that the first thing that you teach? Like, maybe put your priorities. The thing with all those self-defense videos is sometimes I wonder if they concentrate a little bit too much on technical aspects, spending like 2 hours on that.
Oh yeah.
Never really discussed how the violent situation could happen and all the aspects of that, the adrenaline pumping up and all of that. Normally, but like you have that in most martial arts. Martial artists never really cope with that. They never talk about that. They only, I don't know, they're there for like 2 hours learning how to defend someone grabbing your wrists. So I think that's maybe like a common thing, like in all of martial arts, not only like with women's self-defense.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this. Yeah, go ahead, Jourdan.
I was going to say, I think one reason maybe why they teach that wrist grab is because it's simple, especially for beginners. Like, all you gotta do is do this. It's just like so that way the beginner, the trainee will be like, oh man, that's so awesome. So I know how to do that now. But
it makes the student feel like they learned something, right?
Yeah.
And it makes the teacher feel like they taught something. I think what I just said is a Master Ken quote. Actually, it is. He made this video about the high block. Master Ken, that comedy channel. Sorry for saying that, but the Master Ken, in spite of being like a comedian on the internet, in this one video made some of the most brilliant, true statements about martial arts and self-defense when talking about the high block and why it's this terrible idea. But everybody does it, or I should say most martial arts schools that teach this, they teach, if you throw a punch at my head and I do this, I will block it and move it out of the way. And that makes both parties feel good, because it makes the student feel like, aha, I have learned something. It makes the teacher feel good because, aha, I have taught something. And then you get into a real fight and you try that and you get punched in the face. Because the actual bunkai application of that movement is radically different from, parrying a strike, as is so often taught.
That's actually the most useless technique that I got taught. That was one of the first things that I learned, and it's completely useless.
A high block?
Nah. And I still see people learning that. I just don't understand why.
Yeah, there's probably some application of that is very abstract, that just isn't very present. Like for example, I had an experience. I was grappling with Michael Holbert, the wrestling coach at the gym, and so I'm going for an arm drag, and I grab his wrist because we're tied up. We're already in a clinch. I have a collar tie. I grab his wrist. I'm trying to set up an arm drag and get behind him. Okay, and as I grab his wrist, he strips my grip with what looks exactly like the karate low block. He pulls back the arm that I have, and at the same time chops with his forearm very violently to strip my grip, and it works brilliantly. And he does it again and again. I'm like, whoa, time out, man. That's karate. That's a taekwondo low block. And he's like, that's basic wrestling. Like, you can hit in wrestling? And he's like, yeah. And then he goes for like a gut wrench, and as he does it, he reaches his arms around my midsection and boom, just totally hits. Like, really hard, knocks the wind out of me type of hit. I'm like, whoa, you can hit in wrestling. Like, in a very legal way. It's not like striking to do damage like you would in boxing.
Oh,
It's striking for position, which is a radically different concept. And I've grappled with a lot of wrestlers, but again, the tradition that Mike comes from is it's a different style of wrestling, man. It's very aggressive and very, that low block came into play. And yeah, he never even thought of that as being like karate. So I'm guessing like that high block probably has some grappling application that most people aren't aware of and was forgotten hundreds of years ago.
No, I just want to say, what he just did, John, this is, remember, like our short time in Wing Chun, the form?
Yeah.
This is exactly what you learn there. I think that's one of the most effective ways, like if someone really grabs your wrist to defend it. That's the easiest way. Like because in the form, you have this, and then you start punching.
Yeah. But the thing is, like with forms, like Taekwondo form, karate forms, or even Wing Chun forms, a lot of people, they don't know what is there. They just say, okay, just do this and do that, and that's it. But they don't understand the application.
The application is you can use that if someone grabs your wrist, you just do that.
Exactly.
Kind of a karate chop.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned about the forms, like all forms, whether we're talking about karate, taekwondo, kung fu, even the speed bag. Like the speed bag is a form. It's very much a kata of boxing. If it doesn't look like punching, it's usually not punching. So, for example, like pulling the wrist back to, or pulling the hand back to the hip when you throw those blocks or the punches in karate, like you would never do that in boxing, specifically because what they're teaching isn't boxing. It's not punching. Like even like the straight punch where you pull one hand down to the hip as you stretch one arm forward. I've found bunkai applications of that where you stretch out one arm, grab the lapel of the gi, pull it back, grab the pit of the knee, and then drive it forward. So what is taught as a double punch in the form turns into a takedown, a really effective takedown that I use frequently in jiu-jitsu. But the form, like the actual movement, is virtually identical to that double punch from the fourth taekwondo form or whichever Shotokan form they borrowed that from.
I still have to complain. You just said that Master Ken, that's comedy. I didn't know that. He's my idol. How can you say that?
I know, right? It's man. I feel bad about saying that, but all right. Master Ken is totally legit. I'm just going to put that out there. But he is funny. You can't argue. Master Ken is hilarious, right? And in a hilarious and loving but firm example, he teaches us the truth about martial arts. And that's it's a funny thing about storytelling is that you can tell a completely fictitious story that teaches the truth. And that's exactly what Master Ken does. He teaches the truth through humor. He teaches the truth through these outlandish, over-the-top situations. And so from an outside perspective, we might think, this guy's just a clown, but that clown is teaching us the truth about fighting. which is brilliant.
By the way, like Jourdan, what was that name? Like the art of self-defense. What was that movie?
The art of self-defense.
Yeah, I watched that. And it's actually a little bit like
I saw that too.
With Master Ken, like
I actually like that.
it's not just the teacher, but even the students. Like you look at the kind of students they have, you always go like, I know people like that. Especially like those people that take it like super serious, like and whatever the instructor says, like it's like the wisdom.
Exactly.
I know people like that. I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah. The way the club's organized, it's almost like a cult. Like he's making it ordained or something like that.
It is so easy for a martial arts school to turn into a cult. Like it is ridiculously easy. Like, man, I tell you what, if I wanted to be a cult leader, I could do it like that, specifically because I'm in a position right now with my YouTube following, and a lot of people hang on to every word I say, and hopefully, I hope that trust is earned and not just whatever. I mean, I try to do right by my subscribers and all that, but if I was an evil, wicked, twisted person, man, I could capitalize on that trust and manipulate people in some horrible ways if I chose to, because of that influence.
You can make a martial arts. Like that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh man, it's nuts what you could do with that. I mean, I would lose a lot of like grounded in reality type of subscribers, but then there's some crazies out there, man. I shouldn't say crazies. There are some easily influenceable people.
I sometimes wonder like if this is connected like to like all those martial art movies, like in that movie The Art of Self-Defense is like, what was that about? Like what time you get your black belt or so, you only get it if you killed someone, and he makes that joke and they go like, really?
Yeah, they get like what is it, a red stripe on the belt?
Oh, the red stripe, right?
Kill someone. Yeah.
And that's I think
black stripe like, if they gotta go to the badass class.
Right,
the
because people.
Class, what's that called?
Yeah, because people saw like a Bruce Lee movie and they were like, yeah, certainly, like you have to kill someone before you get that. So sometimes I wonder, like it's like you made that video about like Bruce Lee where you said that people think that Bruce Lee is the person like that he plays in the movie, like the character, that this is Bruce Lee. They don't understand that he's an actor. And I think that this kind of spills over to martial arts. Like they mistake the instructor for like someone they saw in a old martial art, like a 90s martial arts movie.
Yeah, man, that was a trippy movie. I was watching it with my wife, and at first it starts out like it might be just kind of a funny movie, like Enter the Dojo, for example.
Yeah.
When they did that miniseries. And then it just veers into a very dark place, and my wife was like, "I'm out. I was in for a comedy. This is something else."
Yeah, I remember the trailer. I think it portrayed it as like a very comedic movie. It's like, oh yeah, just Lex Luthor, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever his name is. Mark Zuckerberg. And then I thought it seemed funny, but then when I was watching it, it got serious, and the ending, you're just like, wow.
I mean, it was very darkly funny toward the end, especially like how the whole resolution about poking the hole through his head like the Grandmaster, with the gun, if you will.
Or learn German.
And that was
French. That's aggressive.
Oh man. But that movie spoke to me in a lot of ways. I was like, wow, martial arts has so much potential to be a cult. I mean, there's so much in common. What do cults do? They like all wear the same white robes or whatever, and they all like revere the same guy. And you go to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. What is it? A bunch of guys dressed in white robes, bowing down to a picture of Helio Gracie or whatever it is. And if you step outside of like the BJJ mindset, like, oh, we're here to roll and learn a valuable skill set, it starts to look a lot like a cult, or at least it can.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, that is kind of connected to like those self-defense clips, because they're just not grounded in reality. And it's the same like this grandmaster in the movie. I found this hilarious. Even like the secret technique and so all that kind of bullshit, which basically is in the videos that we are going to watch. And the interesting part is like if there's kind of like a certain kind of group of people that are, that will be more open to that. Because I was just thinking, like I was training here I went to those MMA guys here in Munich, and they're all nice, but they're all like, I mean, like, I don't know what they do for a living, and sometimes I don't even want to know. So, but like, you go there, I think they're all like bouncers or whatever. Like, and sometimes I don't want to say something which I regret now, but they're all very nice. But you train, and the training is hard, and you like, you do what you do in an MMA class or so, but you go there, you don't think that this is kind of a cult or that they are open to this because they go there because they want to fight. They're not there to, follow those kind of weird rituals and bow to the grandmasters. So I sometimes I wonder, it's a little bit like, I know that, like, I think I heard that the most important customers for rap music in the States, that's actually the white middle class kids, like, which like have no connection. Actually, I saw that with my son now. He's listening to that stuff now, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me because this is a very different kind of world, and like it's you like white middle class. And the Bronx or whatever, or South Central. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And it's a little bit like with this kind of made-up Asian martial art cult or so. And then there's white middle-class kids, which never encounter any violent situations or so. You know what I mean? Like, something is weird. It just basically the customers are people that for them it's just a fantasy, but kind of a nice fantasy.
It's like a subculture.
Particularly with Americans, white Americans in particular, there's a situation where a lot of white Americans feel like they don't have their own culture. If you live outside of the States, you realize right away, they totally do. That's a very specific culture. But most white Americans feel like they don't have their own cultural identity. And so it's really enticing for a average white American to reach out for another cultural identity that is acceptable. Right now, everybody's screaming on the internet about cultural appropriation. At least they were a few years ago. Like, my culture is not your prom dress. When that girl wore the chi pao to her prom, the Chinese dress. And what was his name? Jeremy Lin or something like that was complaining. Which, it's a weird argument, but again, white Americans, they again feel divorced from their culture because for many of them, their families have been in America for many generations, and they can't say like, oh, I'm Irish or I'm Scottish or I'm German or whatever, even though they may have ancestors from those places. So again, they feel divorced from a authentic, ancient, old world culture, and they crave that. There's something about something to be said about craving the authenticity of an ancient culture. Like, I mean, I've done my mom and my older brother, we've done family history back thousands of years, and it's really fascinating to be able to definitively say, like, my ancestors were the ancient Celts who roamed across Great Britain, and because I can identify that, it's almost like it makes me feel like a whole person. And I imagine, Nils, we were talking about your name, your last name before this podcast, because we were trying to find you on Skype, and there are like 20,000 Nils Van. How do you say your last name? Van Doorn?
From Germany too. It's like Germany.
Yeah. We're like, how common of a name is Nils?
It's like John
Nils? That's
Smith.
nuts, man. And it's a Dutch name, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a Dutch name because my father's from Amsterdam. So, but like I was just surprised with the first name plus the second, but not with the family name because it's very common. But you found out that you're kind of unique. That's what we also know. You're the only Ramsey Dewey on this planet.
Yeah, that's right. So So Nils, as you were saying about the kids listening to hip hop, like latching onto African American culture, like hip hop it's like a cultural outlet for them that they can attach themselves to, that they don't get screamed at for. Like it's accessible. They can listen to hip hop without some person yelling, "Ah, that's cultural appropriation. How dare you? You're not allowed. You can't play with us," basically. So I can see why that's definitely appealing to like upper middle class white Americans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't have anything against it. If they want to do it, they can do that. Just for me, it's just I can't relate to that. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's just with part growing up, because usually at certain ages, teenagers, they enjoy certain things and then change. So at first they like hip hop, and then when they grow older, they prefer like jazz or something like that, right? So
with like coming back to martial arts or so, I mean, because there's like a lot of and the way that I trained there was always like a lot of Japanese tradition inside. I mean, we wear the gi and we bow and all of that. That I don't have anything against it, because it's somehow there's a reason, because it comes from Japan, it comes from Asia, so I don't have anything against that. The only thing I say is that, like, if you take it as part of it and you understand why it's there, so the only thing is that if you turn it into cosplay, that's the issue. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes I feel like for some people it's actually more cosplay. You just like totally. People are just dress up like in
Dragon Ball outfit,
Lord of the Rings or so, and then they run into the forest or so. They go and they don't really train, but they like the ninja guys or so, like, the ninja guys.
Because that's fun. Playing dress up is fun. Cosplay is fun. Going to Comic-Con is fun, and dressing up like a ninja and pretending you're a ninja is fun. Like, it's genuinely fun, especially for those kids we were just talking about who feel like they don't have their own culture, and when they find an attachment to an ancient culture with this long-standing tradition where it's acceptable for them to put on that uniform, it's like, wow, it's empowering. It's really empowering and really, really enticing. So, man, I remember the first time I put on a gi, I felt cool. I felt so cool putting on that gi, tying my belt. I was like, whoa, this is real. I'm really doing martial arts. I'm a real martial artist now. That's how I felt. So, now it's a very different feeling. Now I feel like a gi is a necessary evil in order to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the gi, and it just makes you more hot and sweaty and, gives you more mat burn, basically. But, the first time I put that on, it felt magical.
Yeah, but I mean, like, one of the things that has changed a lot is, like, and it's the same for me, like, you use the gi when you have to use the gi, and most of the time people that I train with, like, they just wear a t-shirt or so. I mean, that's like, even, like for workout or so, but like if you're rolling or so, you need a gi, so that's what the gi is for.
Yeah.
So, but as I said, it's I guess.
George Dillman, he basically created a cult with this no-touch ki. The no touch.
Oh yeah,
all those Tai Chi masters in China. Like
I have that to me is like, what I find really interesting is that, I mean, China is catching up to a lot of aspects in the West, and they're also catching up to, like, creating Bushido videos and having those no-touch. Like, this to me is something I find really great. Like, it's like, yeah, we have that in the West, and now we have that in China. We had people that post that in the internet, and now in China we have people that post that. That's awesome. Like this this Tai Chi lady there in China. I love her.
Oh yeah, in the park where
she's awesome.
Oh man,
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made a video about her. That lady, she like crouches down, and 10 guys like try to grab her, and they all like, whoa, jump back like they got blasted with tremendous force.
Yeah, but
it's amazing, man.
That's the thing. It's just like,
yeah,
like why do people believe that? It's just like they're so. Are they like getting paid or to do it or?
No. I mean that's the point. I mean, like we had this WeChat discussion where I said like it's the same with like sometimes I don't want to call it religion. Let's call it more like it's a cult, right? Like it doesn't tell you a lot about God and life. It tells you a lot about the followers, and that's the same thing here. It's like you need like if you look at them and you think the magic master is crazy. It's the students. They're like the same. I mean, it's to me, it's like a cult. Like if you have that in a weird cult or so, if the guy in front who is having like who's in the morning talking to God or so, and they couldn't do that if they don't have people that believe that. So I think it's like because I had the same in the beginning. I was like, why are they doing that? And then you understand, no, it's because they want to believe it.
Sure.
This is a form
Yeah,
of
Jourdan asked,
brainwashing.
like, are they being paid? And that's a fascinating question because I think they're being paid in a different type of currency, not monetary,
not in money,
but they're being paid in the currency of the cult, which is, I guess, respect. You can say respect within the cult. I had a conversation with a friend of mine from Los Angeles, and he grew up around gangs in LA. And these gangs, they get into fights and they commit violent crimes and all of this stuff. And he pointed out something really interesting to me about gangs, which is that their currency is respect. That's the currency that they work in. Like it's not about money. If you disrespect them, they're willing to kill you. Not over monetary disputes, but over respect. If you show respect for them, then they will show respect for you, which is a weird thing. So it's a similar concept with these wacky magic martial arts cults with the no-touch chi powers, because if they cooperate, they get the respect of the instructor and they get mutual respect of their training partners, like, oh, you're one of us, you belong. If they don't cooperate, they are expelled, shunned, excommunicated. Yeah, or they're judged as non-believers, or maybe they're made to feel like, oh, you don't have that power like us, you're not special like us. So it's a different type of currency. So they are being paid, if you will, just not in the conventional way.
They believe what they want to believe, type of thing. Yeah.
I wonder,
I
like,
used to think,
yeah.
I thought that this was like a dying breed thing, and I thought the internet would just kill these crazy martial arts no-touch cults, but I think it's really just reinforced these cults in many ways. And the reason I say this, I made a video about Cynthia Chandraanya. She's from Indonesia, I believe, and
she that
Malaysia.
fastest disarming woman, the one that you showed. Like how
That's
that?
the girl.
It was a video
bullets.
about dodging bullets. Yes, she's made a lot of videos, and some of them are very entertaining. Some of them are pretty good. She shows these really fast kicks and punches and stuff, and some cool breaking demos. But this one I had an issue with because it's titled like self-defense against a gun, and she was teaching people just move, dodge the bullet, which is nonsense. It'll get you killed if you take that as advice. To her credit, after I put that video up, she removed that video from her channel. So props to her for that. But I got a ton, like hundreds of comments from people from Malaysia and Indonesia and these other Southeast Asian countries where Salat is practiced. And they told me, look, you don't understand, Salat is magical. It actually is magical. Like if you practice this long enough, you will become bulletproof. You can do no-touch knockouts. You can break bricks without touching them and things like that. I was like, what? Not just a few isolated incidents, but hundreds of people sent me messages like this, 100% serious. So in some cultures, this is a very prevalent attitude today, like right now in the age of the internet.
But then you have to think also to use like logic. I mean, if that was the case, then how come there's so many casualties in war? A lot of people die so easily getting shot. Why do police officers get? If that was the case, police officers don't need cavalry. They're just
because they're non-believers, Jourdan. Obviously, they didn't cross their toes and put their tongue in the back of their mouth. Like Master Dillman teaches us.
They didn't nullify it, the power.
They didn't nullify it. Yeah.
Wiggle your big toe.
But
precisely.
the issue I have with this is that basically, like, those kind of people, they always make a whole martial art look bad. So like you post that in the internet because Silat, like Jourdan knows, I wanted to go to this instructor from Brunei who came to Germany, and he's teaching Silat, and I was like, oh, that's cool, because you understand that he understands distancing, keeping the distance, manipulating the opponent, etc. I was like, that's cool, I want to learn from him. I don't know how he's doing that, but you understand that this is system behind how he's doing that. And then, like, you have on the other side, you've got those folks, and then everyone will say, like, well, Silat, that's kind of nonsense. You will have that with, like, a lot of martial arts. It's just like a few bad apples, and at the end of the day, like, everyone will just say that this is completely useless. I think that's I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't understand that kind of thinking. I like it's magic. Like, no, it's not. Like, a good martial art, there's a way behind it. It's manipulating your opponent. It's biomechanics. It's always like that. It's never magic. It has never been magic. But I mean, on the other side, you have to understand that this kind. I mean, it's not a new idea, right? I mean, like take China and take the Boxer Rebellion. To me, that's the best example of all times. It's like they went there to fight the Europeans and the Americans, and they just believe that they are invincible, that you can shoot at them and then they cannot die. It's not a new idea. Even you had that before. Like, I still believe that. I still believe that, like, if you live long enough in China, you just turn on the television and you watch kung fu movies. They just fly through the air. We all know how that, like, if you think like you've seen nonsense, I'm sorry, like, this is basically, it's always a bad version of, like, what was that?
Crouching Tiger,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's like a cheap version of that. That's running on Chinese television the whole time. I still believe that it's not a new phenomenon. It's like before, like, because sometimes if you look, to be honest, this is the reason why I start with martial arts. You look at someone showing a technique and you go like, wow, how do you do that? That look cool. And I think, like, before, it's just, I can't prove it, but it's just my theory, is that people looked at this, there was a demonstration, and they looked at it and they said, like, oh, this is magic. You know, like the head instructors saw this, because they had all, like, those kung fu schools all over China, and then they go, like, you know, the guy this is magic. This is kung fu is something magic. So I think that this is something that has probably been around for hundreds of years. This kind of idea that martial art is actually kind of magic, and people can
mythical. Because I mean, kung fu, like what Neil said, watching it on China, the TV, the movies, it looks nice. It's very entertaining. You know, people fly in the air, or the Matrix, but, you know, it's not real. But then a lot of people, they still see it. They still think it's real. That's why, like Xu Xiaodong or other people in China, they're saying, no, it's not real. It's total BS, and I'm going to prove it to you, right? Because for martial arts, it's always like, does that technique work, right? So, and, you know, and if it doesn't work, then you can't call it like a martial art if it's fake. So type of thing. Yeah.
You know,
just like speaking of,
do you know what wushu is? Yeah. Like a dancing, demonstrating. So I used to do wushu when I was a kid, and I used to, like, even when I started it, me and my other friends, we all thought that wushu was so good in the streets. It was better than taekwondo, karate, but we were so naive and ignorant. And
everybody thinks that about their style.
Yeah, of course, as I got older, I realized it's more for performance, demonstrating. It's not for fighting. But you have people who still believe, like, wushu can really work. Like, you don't have to punch like this. You can punch like this or something. Or it's just but
if you never trained, but if you never trained martial art, I think you will believe that. Most people will believe that in the West. They will believe that it's kind of a magic thing or so, and then you become kind of if I tell someone I'm a black belt, they go like, oh wow. I'm like, yeah. So what? I mean, like, doesn't mean that
exploding technique. you can kill 10 guys by yourself.
Yeah, like this kind of stuff. To me, it's always like every time I see like some footage of like some violent situation and it gets so chaotic. This is when you always realize that, yeah, I mean, it's not like in the movies. It's not like this like, what's that, like the Bruce Lee movie where he walks into that dojo and he fights like
Chinese Connection?
20
Chinese
or 30.
Connection, yeah.
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 In fact, the Japanese, yeah. I remember that one.
Surrounded with like 20 dudes and
Yeah.
spin kicks them
that.
all to death, man. Whips out the nunchucks.
Yes,
It's a great
very
scene, man. It's fantasy wish fulfillment for every skinny little nerd that ever got beaten up in school, man. That's exactly what we all wanted to do. That's why we loved Bruce Lee. One thing about Bruce Lee, as opposed to, the traditional Hong Kong Kung Fu movies where they're literally flying through the air, and a reasonable person can look at that and think that's entertaining, but obviously it's not real. When you watch Bruce Lee movies, you're like, okay, he's doing moves that are physically possible. He's kicking, he's punching, he's doing some grappling. It's not far-fetched. He's pulling out a weapon and swinging it. That's something that can be learned. And so I think that's one of the reasons Bruce Lee was so compelling, because his movies were much more grounded in reality than so many other kung fu movies at the time. But speaking of those flying through the air kung fu movies, Zhang Weili, UFC champion Zhang Weili, she did an interview recently where she said essentially that was the reason she started training in martial arts, because she saw those movies and wanted to fly. And in fact, that was her answer. She said, I wanted to fly. I was a kid. I saw those movies. I was like, if I learn kung fu, I can do that. Sweet, sign me up.
When she found out the truth, she can't fly.
Yeah, but she can fight.
Yeah, she can fight though.
She can fight, huh?
She's champion now.
She can't fly, but she can fight. Yeah, it's almost as good. Actually, in many ways, even better.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's also like movies, because if you watch movies like John Wick or any of those movies, a lot of people still think, oh, those techniques are so real, you should do them. And it's just like, okay, for John Wick, the jiu-jitsu is good, but are you really going to armbar someone when you got people shooting at you? You're just going to shoot them.
Especially after having been shot and stabbed multiple times within the last 24 hours, man. That's a whole other level.
He falls off a building and he still lives, so...
Yeah.
Gets hit by a car multiple times, gets stabbed multiple times, shot even, and he's still fine. He's like, let's go get revenge now, or whatever he said.
This, by the way, like with all those movies, and maybe I explain some aspect now which destroys movies, destroys action movies, not just for me but for other people, and I apologize. So, but Diego, you know Diego, and he played in some of those movies.
Like Hitman 4.
Yeah, because like if you live in China and you train martial arts or so, it's easily sometimes to
and you're a foreigner. And
and you end up like our friend Anthony. No, but he explained to me that I should watch out for how the way the fight scenes are edited, how many cuts there are. And that's really interesting, because after that I completely changed my way how I watch those movies. And because somehow you realize that this is not just, it's not a real fight, but it's an edited fight.
Exactly,
Never shoot it at like in one sequence.
Or like 100% at full speed. Like I watch a lot of behind the scenes, like of Jason Bourne, and Jason Bourne looks nice, like Matt Damon. But if you look behind the scenes, they're punching really slowly. It's like,
oh yeah, they speed it up.
Yeah,
and they film it at low frame rate. It's shaky camera.
Yeah,
there are lots of tricks.
Yeah, there's
tricks you can use to make a beginner look like a professional.
Yeah, and it's basically like they just have like a few punches, and then they have another time they have the kicks or so, but they all put it together. And this is where you have the change of angles, etc. But then you also understand that like it looks so cool because of the way it was edited, and because they had so much time. It's completely different to a real fight. Even the way that
they have a good synergy, man. If you have a good synergy between the fight choreographer, the cinematographer, and the editor, man, you can make people who don't know anything about fighting look fantastic. I had a model / actress come into the gym a couple of years ago, Kylie Ma. She's a very talented actress, model, beautiful woman. Not a lot of martial arts experience, like zero martial arts experience. And she was auditioning for an action movie to play the lead character, who was like a deadly assassin, like female John Wick type of thing. And she said, I need like a fight highlight reel. I need to show some fight choreography. I was like, okay, well, what do you know so far? She's like, nothing. How much time do you have? 30 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, this is a tall order. But we put something together. And, within the time frame I was given, 30 minutes, man, it's shocking I was able to do anything that looked halfway decent at all. But, I made her look good. I made her look like, at the very least, she had some combat experience. But that's, again, cinematography, fight choreography, and post-production.
Camera editing, yeah.
Speaking of John Wick, though, man, let's talk about that for a minute. I just saw John Wick 3, Parabellum, that one. And I've got some YouTube friends, the Collery brothers, Nick and Cy Collery. They actually had a cameo in that film, and they worked in the fight choreography. They trained Keanu Reeves, they trained Halle Berry for the fight choreography. They're judo guys. They're these young judo guys. They have an awesome YouTube channel, heavily underrated. So shout out to Nick and Cy, Collery Judo Method. And it's not just like modern sport judo. It's like the pre-1984 judo, where there were far fewer restrictions. You could do double legs, single legs, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, there was a much bigger emphasis on grappling on the ground, finishing fights on the ground. And so, like, their judo is it's a very complete grappling system, the way it's taught. And you can see, like, their fingerprints all over the grappling in that movie. So that was really cool to see, like, the suplexes, which you don't normally associate with judo. That's a big part of what Nick and Cy teach on their channel. So, yeah, definitely go check it out. And if you watch their highlight reels on their channel, then watch the fight choreography on John Wick. Forget about the guns and the shooting and fighting with multiple stab wounds. But the grappling is really cool in that movie. Like, it's some next level movie grappling, which I love to see, because grappling is usually almost non-existent in movies, because like all the fight choreographers come from this movie fu, kung fu, karate chop, punch to the face, spin kick tradition. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it was entertaining, but I didn't think it was actually.
No, but I like the last one better, the third one. Though I have to say the best fight technique in the whole movie is the horse.
The horse.
Oh, the horse.
Yeah. Even better than the dog, man. If we're going for animal techniques, the dog was badass, man.
Just throwing the knives. Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
Man, I was watching John Wick 3 with my wife, and after about 5 minutes, she said, "Is this just one of those guy movies? Is this a killing movie? Or are we just going to watch a dog maul a dude in the crotch for like 2 hours straight?"
But I like this another issue I have like with John Wick. The issue like with the second one and the third one is like you wonder like, why is he killing all those people? Like the first one I understood. They stole his car, they killed his dog. I mean, he had to go and kill all of them, right?
Yeah. It's funny, we all got behind John Wick, like, yeah, he killed the dog, stole his car, get him. And the second two, even though he's literally fighting for his life, if he doesn't fight, he will get killed. It's just not as compelling. It's like John Wick is now the victim as opposed to the avenger.
Yeah,
and
he's a target now on a hit list. The number one target. Everybody's just putting a bounty on him. And they're going to make like a fourth one, apparently, and a fifth one.
Yeah, and the next movie, actually, they did set up the fourth one to be a revenge plot. Because, again, John Wick was betrayed by his friend, left for dead, shot, thrown off the rooftop and all that. And then, what's-his-face, him and Morpheus are like, let's, you in with me, let's go get revenge. And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
But by the way, like the guy he was fighting at the end, that was Mark Dacascos.
Yeah, Mark Dacascos.
I was like, oh man,
I haven't seen him in a while.
That's what I thought too.
I've always liked Mark Dacascos.
What's he done? Mark Dacascos, what's he done?
Oh, he did all like those.
That's John Wick.
Yeah, he's a martial arts, and he's done. He was in Cradle to the Grave, the Jet Li movie. He was in this famous movie called Only the Brave. Well, no. Only what was that Taco Arrow movie? Only the Strong. Yeah,
he was in that one.
Yeah. The Capoeira movie. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So he's like an old school action star. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I remember at one point, like, people compared him with Brandon Lee, and there was like rumors like when they remake The Crow, he was supposed to be the leading actor, but that didn't happen or something.
But you were like, you watch the movie and you're like, wait, I know that guy. That's interesting.
Yeah, because he shaved his head. He's bald.
Yeah,
just like,
right.
Oh, that's Mark Dacascos.
Yeah. Yeah, he was an interesting character. Like, he's the antagonist, and a lot of times antagonists in that particular role are just really annoying. But I love the way he acted the part. He was like, essentially, John Wick, I'm your biggest fan. Now let's fight to the death, okay? That was fantastic. Pretty good fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, the fight was good. I mean, like Mark Dacascos, he's good. That was pretty good. No, but I think it was in that one. I think it was the second one or so. I felt like some of the action scenes, apart from like, does it really make sense to go for an armbar while people are shooting at you? Like, I mean, it's still a movie. I understand that one.
With a gun in their hand.
But coming back to the editing, I think the editing was sometimes a little bit too slow. That's what I felt like. I don't want to say something like. Of course, Keanu Reeves is doing a great job, and he trained a lot of stuff. But then I think it comes like going back to those Jason Bourne movies. Like, the reason why it looks so fast is because of that fast cutting or so. And I think like if they had done that a little bit, because sometimes it goes like, no, he's on the ground, and now he goes up and he shoots, and then the whole movie kind of like the fight scene slows down.
It drags on.
Yeah, they should have done the editing more
just
like
you
it's.
Die already? Can you shoot these guys already? Yeah. So yeah.
Oh man! So you guys want to watch the self-defense video?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. You just tell us which one.
Let's just take a look at this and just comment on it. See if it has redeeming qualities or if it's all garbage or whatever. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
1.
Yeah. I already started watching.
3. All right, here we go.
Very easy. She's going to do it very slow.
It's very easy.
So she's going to kick at the same time as she look in the mirror. Exactly. Now she's ready. And nice to the side.
I didn't understand if he's saying like kick the leg or just post on the leg.
Exactly.
Because they showed posting.
Okay. Now let's see if I can do the
I don't know how much that matters.
Her wrist. Okay.
Didn't even look like a kick.
Nice.
Looked like a
Kick
knee
first and then turn to the side. Kick
Yeah, he's
first
saying
and turn
kick.
to the side. Exactly. And that's how you escape a wrist hold.
Okay. So the kick aside, like that motion, I know we can't demonstrate it right here, but just from seeing that and my experience grappling larger, stronger people, I find if there's like a 30% size strength difference, anything like that becomes virtually impossible. But I know when I say this, a bunch of people on the internet who practice something like this will say, well, you're underestimating the power of that kick. And maybe I am, but if the kick is going to discombobulate somebody so much that garbage technique suddenly becomes viable, then at that point, literally anything would work. So why not, punch him in the face, push him in the eyes, or whatever. It just seems a lot less complex to me. But that's my takeaway. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I still try to understand it.
Yeah, I didn't even look like a kick. It looked like she wasn't even trying. None of them were trying. It was kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of those problems if you're trying a move that's supposed to discombobulate someone. I'm saying that so much because I just did a video on a Sherlock Holmes fight scene where he slaps the ears and says, I will discombobulate him with the ear slap or something like that. And people have been shouting that word over and over again on my YouTube channel. So this idea that like kicking somebody is going to completely impair their balance or something, I mean, the only way to know that is to do it. And if you are teaching a technique that cannot be practiced, then you cannot know how the person is going to react, essentially.
Yeah, this one, like the slap to the ear, you mean? That's
Yeah.
what. Okay. So first of all, like I have a hard time to believe like this one whatever technique that is a 100% technique, because you don't know what's happening. On the other side, like I don't know. Like I'm also, I don't want to judge. The point is like this. Stefan Casting made a video about this, and what I found really interesting, he's talking about that this technique does not work. That's what he's talking about all the time, but he's never doing it. That got me confused. It's like, if it doesn't work, maybe it doesn't work. I'm open to that. Just do it one time and see it. It got me confused that he didn't try it out.
I remember
Because I don't want to say something works or something doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
I remember back in Wing Chun Sifu, I remember he said it's not, it can't knock you out, but it can stun you for a bit. It's and then you gotta do something else afterwards.
Let's do it like, let's put it like this. Like we make a lot of jokes about the eye poking, right? Like, because I have an issue like to believe that if someone is standing in front of you, you do this one time, and that's the 100. You will hit him in any case, and he would just drop that. I think that's a little bit optimistic or so. What happened to me? I was training, and by accident, I just hit the guy. I poked him in the eyes, and he just, I'm not joking, he just dropped to the ground because he couldn't see anything. Like, it really hurt. What I mean with this is like, well, if you hit him, that stuff can hurt. There can be some kind of effect.
Yeah.
But you just should not rely 100% on that. Like, if that's your Krav Maga strategy, like that this 100, like by 100% will end the fight, like, nah, I think that could be a little bit of a risky strategy.
Yeah.
Like I think
anything you do will have an effect. But
yeah, it can have
the
some
effect is
effect.
we don't know.
We don't know, like, and then like if it doesn't have if it has an effect, you do something to follow that up. If it doesn't have an effect, do something different. Like, but the issue is like if you believe like you just do this one kind of technique and like you hit him in the groin and then that's it. That will end the fight. I think that this is the big issue is like if you teach that in a self-defense class and people believe this, but if it doesn't work, what do? You have to have plan B. If you believe that plan A will be enough, then yeah, you'll have an issue there. So,
yeah, in my experience, generally speaking, your first attempt at an attack most of the time is going to fail unless you are fighting an absolute wimp. And yeah, if you're being attacked in a violent altercation, that person feels they have an advantage over you. So chances are they're not going to be an absolute wimp. But going back to that video, if that kick, let's say that's an oblique kick, which is a totally legitimate move. I use it all the time when I spar. I have it used against me all the time when I spar. Obviously, we're going light, not trying to snap each other's knees in halves or anything like that, but enough so we can get a pretty good idea. Okay, yeah, I'm open for that kick, or this would be the result if there's more pressure or whatever. Or this you can unbalance or block or intercept with that kick. But let's say somebody grabs your wrist and I respond with an oblique kick, okay? What if the guy is pulling, which they probably are if they're grabbing you by the hand or doing the two-handed rape choke or any of those traditional women's self-defense techniques they always teach counters to, supposedly. They're generally moving you, right? So there's an imbalance already. So this self-defense video teaches us a static scenario. There's no motion, no resistance, no moving, no pushing, no pulling, simply somebody holding your hand, which again is not an actual threat. Yeah.
Now, this point, I think you're right, but that's maybe a little bit an issue, like the way that they show it, because they want to show like they mimic like a violent situation, right? If you learn something in a static way, like actually I learned that like from you, Ramsey, because you use those terms sequencing and having a drill, etc. You know, like the way that you learn something. So it makes sense to do that. If you never did the technique, you have to do it in a static way. But then the next step is to put in like some some movement
Resistance.
inside, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
this is the way that you learn a technique. You couldn't do that if I start like if you want to learn a technique, and I start to pull you immediately, and you never did that technique before, you will never learn. The issue, like with those self-defense videos, is that basically they mimic, like they basically want to portray a violent situation, and they do that basically in the way that you start to learn a technique. It's just like it
Yeah,
doesn't.
they never get past the sequencing phase.
Yeah.
Like successful teaching, sequence, drill, spar.
Right.
And if you skip the second two and just live in the sequencing area, get your black belt in sequencing, your martial art's going to suck.
Oh, again, I know a lot of people that did this. There's a lot of martial artists that basically never.
Oh, it's fun.
They learn from online.
Man.
And they say, yeah, I'm a black belt.
But the issue with that technique is that, like, again, like sometimes I don't understand the technique, and then maybe someone has to explain it to me, so I don't want to prejudge. And but I try to figure out, like, if there's any, it doesn't make sense, like from a technical point of view. Does it make sense what you're doing there? And that video doesn't make any sense. I just don't like it. It's not the kick. Well, do the kick if you know someone is not put. Maybe that happens. I don't know. Maybe someone's grabbing your wrist and just standing there kicking. That's fine. But why do you do this? This, like, I always have an issue, like, wherever you have to raise your arm or so, because people are just pushing you down. Like, even if they didn't do that before, as soon as I lift it up, it's so, and then you have to switch the hand, and like it's overly complicated. And I don't even know what's the, so you push the arm to the side. Why do you push it to the side? Like, what do you want to do now? Like,
It's very basic and simple. Yeah, they should elaborate more.
There's just
or at least, and then
too many variables, man.
Like, yeah, so this is what happens now, and from a live, and then they should do it. At least something like that. At least make it more realistic, rather than, okay, just do this and that's it. Fun.
Yeah. Yes. In addition to, the realism, it's the variables. Like, the difference between effective martial arts training and ineffective martial arts training is the ability to reduce the number of variables in the equation. So in that scenario, let's say a fight starts by somebody grabbing the wrist. I don't know if that ever would happen, but let's just say it does. Someone grabs the wrist and they have bad intentions. Okay, there are a million variables right there. A million variables at play. A good martial art will teach you to reduce the number of variables to something you can predict and potentially control. A bad martial art will tell you do A, B, and C without reducing any of those variables. So take, for example, jiu-jitsu is a perfect example of reducing the variables, because when you pin somebody in a specific position, let's say you pin them inside control, you've reduced the variables to a predictable quantity. The person on the bottom is going to attempt to escape from the bottom. That's very predictable. That's 100% predictable. That is their best option. Anything else they do that isn't improving their position is generally a really bad idea. Okay? Now, in the stand-up game, there are just way more variables than a pinned position on the ground. Like in boxing, for example, there are a million different variables. And the good boxers are the ones who are able to reduce those, usually with their footwork. Like, they'll move in, hit the guy. And when you hit someone, what do? They want to hit you back. So you move slightly out of range to get the guy to come in so you can get a good counterpunch. So you've reduced the number of variables when you move back to one very predictable one that you can bank on. The guy moving back into range to counterpunch. Right? So a good boxer understands that. Okay? But in this scenario, the guy's grabbing the wrist. The girl responds with a kick without reducing any number of variables at all. So the guy still has a free hand. He's perfectly balanced. We don't know if that kick will damage him. We don't know if it will unbalance him. We don't know if it will anger him. We've just introduced more variables into the equation with that technique. So that's my main issue with it.
It's like teaching one solution, and this is guaranteed to work, type of thing, which is not the case. Which is not the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Next video.
So you start out with a collar tie. It looks like he's giving a Thai massage or something like that. I don't know if that was a neck break or a no-touch knockout, but he's doing that thing that they all seem to do, patting him on the back when he's down to
cross
revive
the legs, cross the feet. dance. Oh, oh,
I don't know what that was, like pressure on the side of the head with his forearms, and then a nice little massage on the shoulders with the elbows, and he drops.
And the Oscar goes to.
Now, I'll be the first to say, I do not understand what I just watched. Have you ever been to like a Thai massage parlor where it's almost like acro yoga where they lift you up with their feet and do all these crazy bendy, stretchy things, dig the elbows in, and it's a very hands-on type of stretching, dynamic massage type of thing. It's really interesting. That's what this looked like. To me, that's exactly what this looked like.
Maybe that was the whole point.
Maybe to relax him to that state where he just crumples on the floor like, I'm super relaxed now. Oh, that hit the spot, man.
Use massage. Hey, what are you doing?
He beat him with his compassion.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Oh, man.
You look confused. Yeah, no comment.
I am confused. Nils' facial expression reflects what I'm feeling right now. It's just... Nils, what did you get out of that?
I think they have a good time. That's what I think. Like, they go there and they feel good about what they do. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's actually like this is Master Ken is making a lot of fun about. That's this camp karate, this kind of idea that, you do like 1,000 techniques and then the other guy is just standing there or so. But I don't even have an issue like if you have, I don't know, you turn the guy around and then you do this or that or whatever, whatever kind of technique you can use at the moment for manipulation. So the issue is that, like in those videos, it's always like 20 at a time. But okay, the point with martial art, and this is where martial art actually is starting to be fun, is as soon as you feel the energy, like you go like, okay, but you know that if you're sparring this, so like someone is pushing and you're like, there's a hole, I can exploit that. This is something I can use against him because he's giving me this, and I can use it against him. The issue that they have is that for them it's the other way around. It's not what the other person gives me, it's what I want to do. To me, that's a perfect example.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I tell you that.
This is
where you
fantasy wish fulfillment. It's power fantasy, man. Like, power fantasy, straight up. This idea that we formulate our vision in our mind of what we are going to do, and we convince ourselves this is how fights work. And if you've never been in a real fight, it's easy to think that. Super easy to think that. I just reviewed that fight scene from Sherlock, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movie. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, of course I've seen
it. He gets into this fight. It's like an old timey, no rules, no holds barred type of bare knuckle fight. And there's a moment toward the end of the fight where he has the stream of consciousness about what he's going to do.
Right.
I will distract him this way, and then discombobulate him with an ear slap, and then I will fracture his jaw with this punch, and I will break his second rib with this, and I will smash his liver with that, and I will, and it's this very scientific analysis of everything he's going to do and exactly what it's going to result in, and then he totally does it exactly like he imagined, and it works perfectly, right? So if you've never been in a fight, it's really easy to fall into the mind trap of thinking that's how fights work. You plan them out in your mind on the spot. You're like, I'm going to crack him in the jaw and smash it in two places. And you try to do that. You swing and you miss, and the other guy hits you back. And you're like, no, that's not how it worked in my imagination. And it's quite infuriating and enlightening at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of like those Tai Chi masters. Yeah, like they think that they never, you can clearly tell they never sparred before. But, they assume, okay, and then, I can just do this pushing hand, and he's going to fly in the air. I'm going to be victorious, and then they get punched, and they're like, wait a minute, not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. There's a childlike innocence to that. And I've had this experience trying to teach my own children, like my older daughter, she's 7 years old now, and I always try to teach her to be safe around strangers, like basically don't put yourself around strangers. She's like, but why, Daddy? I know how to fight back. I'm like, well, look, you're a small child, you have the strength of a small child. If a grown man, even if he doesn't know how to fight, grabs you, you're in trouble. And she's like, I can fight back. I'm like, all right, prove it. I'm going to try to grab you, lift you up and carry you away. You fight back. Do whatever you can. So I just grab her, pick her up. She's flailing around, not able to do anything because she's a small child and I'm a grown adult man. And I carry her off, and she gets mad, and she says, well, that's not what would happen in real life. In real life, I would be able to escape. Like, that was real life. That was a real thing that just happened. And again, she finds an excuse like, well, that's just because it's you against a different person. It would be different. And again, it's a child's mentality, because a child wants to believe in the power fantasy. They want to believe they're never in danger. They're immortal. They'll never get hurt. And yeah, it's a matter of growing up and sobering up that every martial artist should go through it, but many have not.
Or they choose not to. So,
Yeah,
or like
they
any,
live in Neverland, man.
Any cults in general.
Yeah, but I guess it's also because of the training method. That's what I think. So the way that you train, or the way that your instructor teaches you. So I mean, if the instructor,
let's take a look at one of these fights. It's 44 seconds long, between a guy who knows how to fight a little bit. You can tell this guy's been in a couple of scraps.
And the yellow mats.
Professional fighter, yeah, on the yellow mats, and a traditional martial artist who has clearly never fought before. Okay, and when these videos go up on the internet, a lot of traditional martial artists get mad because they feel like it's a personal attack on their style, and it's totally not. It's just an example of what happens when you have a more experienced fighter fighting an inexperienced fighter. One of these guys who's still essentially living in Neverland as far as martial arts goes. So you guys have this one queued up?
Yep,
right,
ready?
1, 2, 3, and go. So we got a fighter in black Muay Thai shorts, a guy in some black pants, and a referee. So this is an organized amateur club fight from the look of it. I don't know who these guys are or what the fight is over. But we got a teep right off the bat, round kick to the head. Black Pants is still at it, but he's like swinging those arms, not punching, but swinging pretty wildly.
They're not even wearing gloves, too.
Yeah, it's bare knuckle. Looks like he landed one, but that was more out of just volume of wildly swinging. He's eating some low kicks.
What style is the guy in black pants trying to do? Black law?
It's impossible to tell, man. It is impossible to tell. So that's the I've never been in a fight before style, man. But from what I saw, it kind of looked like he probably trained in some style where they did some forms, and if you asked him to do a form, he could probably do something very clear and crisp. But again, what I saw was a lack of sparring, a lack of experience, and he's trying to make shapes like the form or whatever, but, you know, it doesn't work when you have somebody violently kicking you in the head and things like that. At least not the same way. What did you see, Nils?
That was a shitty fight.
Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
Nah, but I mean, like, no, it was terrible. Yeah, but as you said, like a lot. It's the same like with the Jourdan, like his fights, like the guys he's beating up. They've never been in a fight in their life, and with him, it's even like I even better, because you see like those guys that really have this idea that they use their magic tai chi or whatever, and then they just get beaten up by him. So I think that for them it's a meeting with the reality. That's just like because people like, even like a lot of my friends or so, like they would just say like, have you watched that fight or so, like have you seen, and you always go like, yep. No, he's and it's not his fault. It's like because those people, they just wait for him to say, okay, let's go in the ring or so. But to me it's just very interesting. Like if you know that you're going to have that fight, shouldn't you prepare? I mean, shouldn't you have done some kind of sparring or fighting before you go into the ring and there's cameras?
Of course, you work on your cardio.
Absolutely, man.
They probably just say, "Oh, I just need to do my forms more," and that's it. Like they probably don't have ads.
And I still like, so there's one where he's fighting this Wing Chun guy, and then Jourdan I just talk about that fight because that's the other one was too bad. No, but this Wing Chun guy, he's trying to spar him, and I'm like, but like your kind of martial art is never made for sparring situation. Like it's like, you know, there's some martial art which are not for fighting. I mean, like Tai Chi is not for fighting. You know, there are elements that you can take out of it, but it's not made for that. And then Wing Chun you can use in a very close, like if you've got a very restricted space, and then it's a very different situation where you suddenly just land one or two punches or so. Like you can use it, but you cannot use it in a setting where people are moving. Because it's too static, and you don't have enough impact, like if the other one is moving his head or so, and like because you see him doing those chain punches and there's no effect, because in that situation it doesn't make any sense. But what I find interesting is like if you see those fighters that you always go like, but didn't you know that before? Like if you think about it, I did a little bit of sparring before, or prepared a little bit for that. You should have known that before. Like then they just find out like when they're in the fight.
That is real world logic, man. But people in that mindset, like I said, it's the child's mentality. They're still in that power fantasy child's mentality. Like my little daughter, when I grabbed her and said, "All right, what are you going to do?" And she said, "In real life, this wouldn't happen." And I replied, "This is real life. It's a cognitive dissonance, a childlike cognitive dissonance."
They always try to find it to justify their actions. Oh yeah, I was sick that day. Oh, my shoes were slippery. I slipped and fell. So, oh, I can't use my technique 100% because you might die. The whole world will explode. You know.
That one. That's such a common one. Oh man.
I actually that I had this weird situation this year. I was training with someone I think he's not been to class for some time, and then he came back and oh wow, I did first I trained with him 2 times. And the one time I actually took him down with this Tai Chi, the one that I learned from Ramsey, you know, where you pull the leg and you...
Oh, yeah.
You know that one?
Leg grab.
Yeah. And I just never tell them before. Maybe I should tell them. I said, let them just kick me and just do that because it was... And then the other time he said, I want to do some stick defense. So and I said, attack me. So I attacked him. And he did some stuff which was it's never going to work. I don't know whoever taught you that. So I said, just take a stick. I will show you what I do. I don't want to make myself look cooler than I am now. But he was just on the floor the next moment. And then he started screaming at me. He freaked out. And I got really angry because everyone was in the gym. And he said, you don't, you hurt me and you just cannot control your technique or so. And as I said, I was really upset because if you don't want to train with me, you just tell me or so, but just don't scream. And I was thinking about that because I was really for a couple of days, I was thinking why do people respond to I'm sorry, because maybe he figured out that the stuff that he was doing or that he learned, it's just not working. And then if you somehow if I go in and meet someone and you can either say oh, Xu Xiaodong, this is really cool, the stuff that you showed me, and I want to learn, or you just freak out because you're self-conscious. This is just
I think their ego is too big. Yeah,
your ego is just big, this is awesome. Why you just say this is what you did is you know what I mean? How dare you? It's a little bit like the guy that we had.
Something comparable.
Yeah, I just want to say
really comparable in. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say the guy with Joseph and the guy in the gym.
Oh yeah.
That story with the guy that the guy that freaked out. You've been there
James
at that day.
Man.
Yeah, it was the same.
Yeah,
crazy guy at the gym goes nuts, man. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is be hey, can you not hit so hard? That's it.
For anybody watching this on YouTube wondering what happened at the gym and you didn't see that video, quick recap. This guy came in the gym. He'd been training with us for about a week. We had a sparring session, a Shark Tank with a friend Joseph who was going back to Spain. Light contact sparring. Joseph threw a light contact kick to the leg. This dude just freaked out. Rah! started screaming every racial slur, just screaming his head off for 10 minutes, left, came back with his wife with a camera recording everything like he's trying to start an incident, expecting us to jump on him or something, just screaming and yelling, and then he leaves again. And oh man, it was loud and terrible. But the most adverse reaction ever to a light contact leg kick. Man, you'd think this guy was dying or something the way he reacted. But I'll tell you, I see a really similar reaction in jiu-jitsu, in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, with wrist locks and leg locks a lot. When people are not used to wrist locks, they freak out because they haven't really been trained in the narrative that you tap out to a wrist lock. Like an armbar, they recognize, right? They recognize somebody catches you in armbar, you tap out. Somebody catches you in the Americana, the Kimura, the triangle choke, you tap out. Somebody catches you in a wrist lock, a lot of beginners, even intermediate jiu-jitsu guys, they don't know what that is. They haven't felt it. They haven't been taught to tap out. And I find a lot of them will just start screaming. They'll start screaming at me like, "What the hell are you doing? Let go!" I'm like, "Tap out. Like any other joint lock, just tap out. Why won't you tap out?" But it hurts their pride so badly because, again, they haven't been taught to recognize that as a legitimate submission. And the same thing with the heel hook. For the longest time, like especially in the tradition of gi jiu-jitsu, people have been taught heel hooks are evil, heel hooks are the devil, heel hooks are too dangerous. And so they don't train with heel hooks. They're banned from IBJJF at all levels. Okay. And so like the IBJJF only competitors and people who go to that tradition of jiu-jitsu gym where they never feel a heel hook, they won't tap out to it because they don't know when to tap out. They don't recognize the danger. They'll just start screaming at you and preaching you about how evil and bad and wrong it is. Whereas, somebody like you roll with a sambo practitioner or get him in a leg lock, he'll tap out instantly because he knows what that is. He's been trained in the narrative. A leg lock is dangerous. Tap out to it. You got me. Okay, fair game.
I know some people, they always say things like the wrist lock, or I've read a lot on Facebook, my Facebook feed. They always say wrist locks, is it really cheap? Is it a cheap move or not? And I was just like, well,
prison rules, man. Prison rules.
Yeah. But I'm just like, if
it's a legitimate, highly technical move,
yeah, I get wrist lock.
It's difficult to pull off.
Yeah, I get wrist lock a lot, but then it shows me, okay, I gotta watch out for my wrist, right? Or something.
When you can wrist lock people, that's a finesse move. That's like the flying spin kick of jiu-jitsu, basically. I mean, if you can flying spin kick somebody at a kickboxing match, people are impressed. They're like, "Whoa, that was awesome! You're the man." That's very difficult to do. So when you can like pull off like a standing wrist lock submission, like Aikido practitioners envision in their mind, in the ideal world, they're able to do that. But if you can do that in like a real jiu-jitsu match, I think Rodolfo Vieira did that once. The guy grabbed his lapel and he bowed down and got the wrist lock, and it was beautiful. That was a good one. Like ended the match instantly, and it confused a lot of people because they weren't used to seeing that. But to me, I was like, "Oh, that was beautiful jiu-jitsu. That was amazing. That was like the flying spin kick of jiu-jitsu right there, even though it doesn't look fancy."
Even like the close guard, there's a wrist lock where if you're in someone's close guard and they grab your wrist, you can actually do something that bends the one. I can't do it myself.
Yeah,
it bends their wrist like this. Yeah, and because I remember someone did that to me. I was like, "Wow, that's so cool."
Yeah, there are a ton of great wrist locks. There are tons of great ones, man. Like Keenan Cornelius, he's got a series of videos on wrist locks. Everybody should know, like the 7 deadly wrist locks or something like that.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of variations. You can use them from the guard, from mount. Man, wrist locks from mount. Nobody expects you to have wrist lock from there. You punch them in the face from mount in an MMA fight. They put their hands up like this. When somebody has that hand already in that position, boom, figure 4 wrist lock right there. It's a quick way to win a fight, but you do that against somebody who's never felt it. Again, they start screaming at you. They don't tap out. They're just like, you're a monster. Let go. What's wrong with you? They try to make you feel bad. It's like they would rather you punch them in the face than, give them an easy out with a wrist lock.
The same people that also believe that throws are dangerous and takedowns are dangerous. Everything is dangerous.
Takedowns are dangerous, yeah.
We have
anything you haven't practiced is dangerous.
Right. If you fall properly, it's okay.
Yeah. Whatever you don't know, whatever you don't recognize, that's what's going to hurt you. What you are familiar with, what you have practiced, that will be considerably less dangerous to you. Like if you do break falls every day, falling down isn't going to be a big deal. If you don't know what a break fall is and you fall down on concrete, you're going to break something. You're going to hurt yourself. So what you don't know will hurt you is what I'm trying to say, man. Let's talk about the that women's self-defense technique. So Nils, you and I, we did our first MMA Fighters Try women's self-defense technique video based on the Marie Claire one, and it's got like what 1.5 million views so far, something like that. It blew up. Joe Rogan shared it on his site. That is like the video largely responsible for popularizing my YouTube channel.
And it was a video that we just did like on a Friday afternoon or so, like
Joe Rogan
with a phone. Or, yeah, it was just
put it on Twitter. Everywhere.
Yeah, Jourdan sent me that video, that ridiculous women's self-defense video. Said, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And I was like, "Man, this is bad." And I remember I showed it to my wife, and my wife said, "That doesn't look so bad." And I was like, "Oh man." My wife was an intelligent, smart person. You know, she sees this, and I realized I have to do something. I have to do something about this. So, yeah, Nils and I, we get to the gym, and we're like, let's just try it out, see what happens if we do this against a real person who isn't fully cooperating. Like, it doesn't even have to be like fighting back, just mild resistance, right? And mild resistance shut down like most of this stuff. So let's talk about that first move, the wrist grab. Real quick, could you guys pull that one up?
Yeah, I have it.
The Marie Claire one.
Okay.
So the first one, I believe, is the wrist grab technique, because that's the first technique all women self-defense ones teach. So here, let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I started already.
So we got that beautiful background music.
What's up, guys? My name is Lena Marty.
Lena
here
Marty.
with Fitness.
Lena Marty is a
Guys,
totally
few
legit
moves on
fitness instructor.
self-defense.
She's an awesome fitness instructor.
Pin hold.
Um,
So you want to block.
and she's actually recanted this video. Like,
Yeah,
she's
doing
gone
Krav
on
Maga.
public record saying,
Krav Maga now.
yeah, she's gone on public record saying, I denounce this video. I know it's bad. Okay, this is the move right here, the wrist thing. She pulls the hand up like this and then turns it over like this. And we got a lot of crap from people on the internet saying, you're doing it a different way. Because there was one scene, I noticed she holds it 2 different ways each time, this way and then that way. So inconsistency in the technique. But yeah, let's just stop right there and talk about the wrist grab. So there was one part of that video that didn't get filmed, and I hate that it didn't get filmed, but it was the fact that, you know, we had the hand down like this, and we're trying to lift it up like we did in the video, but we're working against leverage, and so we could not, against a resisting opponent, lift the arm up like she did in the video. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we started from that raised position, and everyone on the internet's like, no, you're doing it wrong because you're starting in the raised position. You should start down here. We're like, yeah, anyway. But then we made a second one where we start in the down position, and it's still crap, right? But there was a fairly recent video from, I believe he's an Aikido practitioner, because this is similar to an Aikido technique that is taught in his tradition. And he made a video series called something like Why MMA Fighters Should Not Teach Self-Defense. And it's quite long. It's a lot of talking and so on. But one part of that video in particular, he grabs the wrist and he's like, I don't know why they didn't just teach push the face with your free hand. And Nils totally did teach that. There was a moment, I look at Nils after we're trying this technique.
I remember that.
And I said, Nils, you've trained in like German Jiu-Jitsu, you're familiar with Aikido and all these other martial arts. Drawing from your experience, what would you do in this position? And Nils just pushes me in the face. I'm like, holy crap, that was super effective, right? Like, literally, that is what we taught on screen.
So this Aikido guy was basically debunking your video?
He's trying to debunk our debunking video, saying, yes, Lena Marty's technique that she made up on the spot for Marie Claire magazine online, which she later denounced as being absolute crap, which she just pulled out of her butt, basically, is totally legit. That is what he's saying.
Neil has no comment.
I gotta say though, I have absolute respect for Lena Marty. I love Lena Marty. I follow her on Instagram now. And she does a lot of good work in the fitness industry. And since she made that video, since we made our response to it, you know, she watched that, she got a bunch of backlash, and she thought, you know what, I'm going to learn legitimate martial arts. She signed up for, you know, I can't vouch for the quality of the martial arts she's learning, but she signed up for a class, and she's trying to learn outside of her own experience, trying to go legit, trying to learn how to actually defend herself. So, you know, that's very admirable. Most people don't do that when they're called out on their crap. Most people, if you tell them they're wrong, they'll double up on being
Master
wrong.
Wong, for example.
Yes, yes. Oh man, the rear naked choke fiasco. Like he's doing it like this, giving the guy a mile of space where there's no way you could constrict the carotid arteries. We point that out, and he doubles down. He's like, I'm going to prove that I'm right, and you don't actually need to constrict the carotid arteries to choke somebody with a rear naked choke. And it got ridiculous after a while.
Actually, remember Xu Xiaodong? He fought his first Tai Chi guy, Lele, right? You know how it was embarrassing at him, but Lele is now doing Muay Thai now. And I heard he's been doing Muay Thai.
Yeah, he started taking kickboxing classes. He started legitimately training.
Yeah, I actually
he woke up
a lot for that.
He woke up from Neverland.
He said, okay. And then now he's like deciding to do something about it. Whereas other people, other Tai Chi masters, they're just like, no, I was sick that day. You know what I mean? Or, you know, my Jedi mind trick wasn't working. Or, you know, he
crossed his toes. He put the tongue in his back of his mind. He wasn't a believer. Exactly.
His toe was lifting up.
He lifted his toe, precisely. My technique is too dangerous for the ring, so I wasn't able to fully use it. Oh man. But interesting thing about Lena Marty is I would say she's probably saved more lives as a fitness trainer, helping overweight people lose weight than anybody in the self-defense industry has, saving lives from bad guys jumping out of the shadows attacking you. Because, like, man, how big of a problem is that in the real world? Bad guys jumping out of the shadows attacking you when you don't expect it. I mean, it does happen, and I don't want to belittle the moments where it has happened. I mean, there's footage of that. There are incidents of that. People watching this probably know somebody who that has happened to, but it's the exception. It's not the norm.
Yeah, but
if you look at something
in the United States, the highest reasons of death was cardiac arrest. Was it heart failure?
Yes.
Yeah. Heart
failure, the number one cause of death, and the number one cause of heart failure worldwide. It's obesity. In the United States, it's like a 60% adult obesity rate. 60%. That's nuts. And like right now with the coronavirus plaguing the world, everybody talks about how the elderly are at risk, but you know who really is at risk the most? It's people suffering from obesity, people who don't get out and move and don't expel what's in their lungs and have poor cardio.
It's the diet,
vascular, respiratory health. Yeah, exactly. Like if your maximum bench or maximum squat is get up off the toilet, you're gonna have some serious health problems in your life. So, man, it's almost ironic that this woman who has helped hundreds of people, overweight people, get healthy, you know, got fell into that trap of teaching online self-defense, if you will.
Yeah, but I mean, she should definitely do another one now that she knows.
Yeah, actually, I would love to see that, man.
For a while, so yeah, she can make another one for Mary Claire. Just be like, hey, this is the real one now.
Yeah, she said that she's contacted them multiple times saying, please take that video down. I want to do something better. I know I can do better. You know, give me a chance to make it up to the world, basically. And they're like, nah, it's good. It's getting lots of views. It's making us money.
It's all about the money.
But like in her case, I would say like it doesn't make sense. Yeah, I get that. But it was with good intentions. The other videos that you still have lined up, they are just like comical. I mean, that's she shouldn't feel so bad about it. I've seen things that just like with her, you go like, I'm not sure how who showed you that, because it's just like not making much sense. But it was with good intentions. And then there's like a lot of stuff which just is complete
backlash for sure.
Just like why? Like are you nuts or so? Why you film that? I mean, like, sometimes I wonder if it's comedy or if it's that I don't know.
Yeah, or she Gabriel Rubin. Like, I don't know where she learned that too. Like, did she just think of it? Oh, this must be a good technique. So let's be on the ground, move the hips.
What is Gabriel Rubin doing now? Like, she was all over the internet for a while. Did she just quietly disappear? Is she still running a self-defense practice? Did she like go back to school on the subject like Lena Marty did, or did she just hope the internet would forget her, crazy antics like the slot machine technique?
Yeah. Or and the bicycle kick or something like that.
Yeah. Some people do that. They don't change and they hope people forget. Like Lloyd Irving and his school, and they were like top dogs in grappling training, MMA training. They had some guys in the UFC and all that. Lloyd Irving, it came out to public knowledge that he was involved in a gang rape case, assaulting this woman.
I read about that.
Yeah.
This happened a long time ago, like many years ago.
Happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
He managed to avoid prison time. His friends went to prison. And then some years later, some of his fighters were involved in raping one of their female teammates. And then, like there was some sort of collaboration to cover this whole thing up. And it was all over the news. They pretty much got crucified on the internet, on Jourdan and so on. And like the Grappling Game Plan, Lloyd Irving's book, which, I read it. It used to be a very expensive book. It was like $200 US to buy this book. A friend of mine loaned it to me, and I read it. I was like, okay, this is an okay book. It's a very novel concept, writing a book about a game plan instead of an encyclopedic system of this is how you do this technique and this technique, right? So I love that idea, although the execution of the book, I've read better. But now, if you watch enough YouTube, if you have an interest in martial arts, you'll probably get an ad for Lloyd Irving's book, saying you can get it for free now if you pay the shipping and handling charge, basically. So basically, he's giving it out for free now, all these years later, hoping people have forgotten or a new generation doesn't remember the whole scandal at the gym. I mean, I don't know what else he can do at this moment. It's a strange situation, man.
Or he's trying to regain his reputation back or something like that.
I think he's just trying to make some money, man, because he's got all these books. They used to be a hot commodity, used to sell for $200 each, and now he can barely even give them away because people remember this is the guy who was involved in those rape cases. We don't like this guy.
I can imagine a lot of schools stop being affiliated with him.
Yeah, there was an EBI Eddie Bravo Invitational event a while back where some students from the Lloyd Irving School were there, like not even Lloyd or any of the guys involved in the case, but some of the students from the school. And there was a big public outcry, and some of the sponsors were like, we won't stand for this. We never want to see these guys at this tournament again. This school should shut down. So, wow. And it's a weird situation. Like, what do you do? What do you do if you have legitimate training, but it turns out that your trainer was a creep? Because that has happened. That has happened so many times.
Yeah, and that's what creates politics. Because when you got students switching gyms, that's when. I mean, yeah. And then it's kind of like what's his name? T.J. Dillashaw and Uriah Faber, right?
Yeah.
You know how he left the one to go with Dwayne Ludwig or whatever his name is, and just create this huge outcry. It's like, you're a traitor. How dare you?
Yeah, a lot of gym politics there.
Yeah. Should we watch another video?
Yeah, let's take a look. Okay, what else do we have on the list, on the queue? Okay, so we had Lena Marty we just watched.
What was that gun one you said?
Okay. Oh, man. All right, so this one, it's like 1 minute and 41 seconds long. This is from an extremely popular website. They make self-defense videos. They make like DIY videos. They make like women's tips, like beauty tips and that sort of thing. And they make like some comedy videos as well. So it's a weird mix of variety, but they do put out a lot of self-defense videos, and they get millions and millions of views, and they are all laughably bad. Like man, when looking for videos to try for the next episode of MMA Fighters Try Women's Self-Defense, like, I haven't even considered trying out one of these in real life because they are just so ridiculous. It would be a liability. It would be a serious liability to attempt these in real life.
All right, let's watch.
Without the
I'm getting too
choreography.
excited now.
Which
I don't know
one
how
is
bad
it?
it is.
All right, so it's 141. It's the guy with the yellow shirt, and he's like holding his face there. You guys queued up to that?
Yep.
It's from T Studio.
Ready?
All right, let's take a look. 3, 2, 1.
Go.
There we go. All right, so a girl, she's hanging out listening to some music. She's wearing her pink top. Guy pulls a gun on her. She.
Oh, that's so John Wick.
It's just like, how do you describe this gun disarm? It's like she pulls against the trigger, putting pressure on the trigger.
Here we go.
Okay,
Again.
another gunman. Okay, at least she moved the gun out of the way that time. I mean, I wouldn't put stock in that, but
Kick the nuts.
kick to the groin. And these guys have like no grip on the gun at all. They just instantly let go as soon as she puts her hand on. All right, the hair grab, man. Hair grab defenses are ridiculous. I mean, maybe if the guy held on, just stood there stationary while you did your thing, maybe you could get out. But
that's your
man, hair grabs in real life are a whole different thing. This is coming from a guy without hair, but I understand.
Wow, what was
hair
this?
gives you control of the head.
Oh.
And she's so gently just grabbing the arm and doing these nice little massages on the neck with her fist.
Right here.
Like I tell you, a traditional Chinese massage is much more violent than anything shown here.
Did she just whiplash him with her hair?
We got the replay here. So he's got the belt around the neck. She grabs the belt, bows down, putting additional pressure. Oh, I think that's supposed to be like a backwards headbutt. Hitting with the soft part of the head. And yeah, wow. What did you guys think of those gun disarms? No space.
You sure this is not the comedy part? I see so much of that, and I always wonder that maybe it's meant to be comedy as well. It's like I love the one like when she's listening to music and the guy shows up with a gun. I mean, this is what happens to you all the time, right? Like
I know, right?
Just
hanging out, minding your own business. Maybe you're waiting at the bus for the bus to come by. A guy comes up with a gun. I mean, in a public place, clearly.
So there's two things. The first thing is that it's like the sweep. It basically gives the impression that, I mean, I'm really sorry to say that, you just blame me for that or so, but like it's still a difference like between a man and a woman in physical strength. I mean, like it always looks so easy when they do the sweep. So I think the point is also that it gives a really bad and like a dangerous impression to women that like
it's a false impression. It's a lie.
It's super easy to do, right?
This deception, yeah.
The other thing with like, but this is like I would say like 90% of all martial arts movie videos that you find, and especially like those self-defense videos, is they always show you like a combination. They always show you like they do like 2-3 techniques, and this is how you do it. They never explain you anything. So one of the channels on YouTube that I like the best is Fight Tips. I think that's a really good channel because the guy explains you a tech. He really breaks it down to every aspect of a punch, of a kick, how to move, etc. This is what you have to learn, and then you can all put it together.
Yeah, like
but like it's so easy. I mean, this is the same.
Yeah, like he didn't just show the technique; he explains it. Like,
he explains one technique. He explains why you move like this. This is why you do that. This is all of those aspects. Is like normally like you just. I tell you, just like look for. Just type in knife defense on YouTube. And they will show you some fancy stuff like like the Gracies at the beach, like it would just get you killed, but it makes a cool video. Yeah, you get a lot of clicks. But this is not what you should teach. You should teach. The first thing is footwork. It's like how do you move? Where do you move? Why do you move like this? Why do you do this technique? What's your plan A? Your plan B? What do you do? What's the next step? This is never. Sometimes I wonder, like maybe because it gets too complicated, you don't get enough clicks, so you just come up with that nonsense, and it's just like like how people are now with like TikTok or so. They just those videos, so they're just standing there in the subway.
They have to be short and catchy, yeah.
Yeah.
Technique videos on YouTube are hard, man. Like making a quality technique video channel on YouTube and getting a lot of views is very difficult. So Fight Tips it's an anomaly in the sea. Like it's one of the few technique channels that gets a lot of views and has a ton of subscribers that shows legitimate technique. It's so rare. Like you look at all these other guys like Neil Melanson, you look at his channel or look at his videos on the Hayabusa channel, and the dude is one of the greatest MMA trainers out there right now, but maybe 2,000 views, maybe 3,000 views on his technique videos. Okay, then you look at man, not to bring up Master Wong again, but let's bring up Master Wong again. Master Wong can show the rear naked choke incorrectly and get 1 million views. And, just teach some nonsense that doesn't work in a real fight, and he'll get 1 million views. But Fight Tips, again, it's that rare exception where it's quality and quantity together. And one thing that Shane Faison does really well that so many other people don't in the martial arts world is that he's honest. And that makes such a huge difference. Like, he recognizes his own limitations. Like, he comes from a boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo background, and people have a lot of questions about things that aren't covered in that spectrum. Like, show us something about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So what does he do? He brings in a black belt friend who has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to show the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technique. Or show us an MMA thing. He'll bring in, like, Boss Rutan or Faraz Zahabi or something. Like, here's the MMA thing. Right, and so he doesn't pretend. He doesn't pretend at all. And I've got so much respect for that. Like when he makes those BJJ videos, he puts on the white belt and he wears it proudly, and that's fantastic. And a lot of martial artists in particular, they are afraid to put on the white belt if they got a black belt in another style, or if they're a master of another style, because it's frightening. I just did a podcast with Jesse Enkamp, the karate nerd. I don't know if you've seen his channel, Popular Karate Channel. And he does this series of seminars he calls like the Karate Nerd Experience, where a bunch of karate guys from all over the world come, and he hands out pink belts to everybody because he just wants to get past that nonsense about rank, which I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So again, that's one thing Shane does very, very right, is bring us the honesty and the technique together. But yeah, man, it is hard to make technique videos popular.
I think that's why
my channel.
YouTube, I think that's why YouTube. That's why you got all these because I can imagine like Mary Claire or that video you just sent me, that crappy one.
Yeah.
If that was on YouTube, that could probably get like millions of subscribers because it looks glossy. But so I feel like and then the people who make this, they know that. They say, oh, well, this video, my techniques, or I guess they know how they don't know it. But yeah, they say things like, oh, yeah, well, I get like 10 million subscribers. My techniques, I know they work because of that reason. So that's how a cult begins, type of thing.
Sure.
It's like George Foreman in a way.
Exactly.
Or George Dillman. No, George Dillman, not Foreman. Dillman.
Yes, Dillman, not Foreman. If you look at the technique videos on my channel, the straight up technique videos, like here's how to do a technique, do this, do that, here's how you drill the technique, here's a way to spar with the technique to improve your technique, whatever. Those have the least views of all, right? Where I'm teaching it like a class, like a seminar. The ones that have a lot of views have a gimmick behind them, right? The number one would be the Master Wong rear naked choke video. It's a basic rear naked choke tutorial. Here's how you do a rear naked choke. Here is how not to do a rear naked choke. And because it's Master Wong themed, and he's got this huge built-in core audience, a bunch of people flock to that and watch it, probably for the wrong reasons. They don't care about the technique, they care about the controversy. But again, you dress up some other ones, like I do those fantastic fictional fight scenes where I watch some movie clips and talk about what does and doesn't work, and sometimes go to the gym and try it out. And what those are cleverly disguised technique videos. Like in the last one, we did Kirk versus the Gorn in Star Trek, the original series. And it was a cleverly disguised technique video about how to use a crossface to get out of a clinch, right? But again, most people, they're like, oh, cool, I like Star Trek, so I'm going to go watch that. Again, for most people, you have to give it a gimmick to sell the technique. So it's staggering and astounding that Shane Faison was able to build up a technique-based channel like that and make it so popular.
He's very charismatic.
Yeah.
Very charismatic,
Even without the gimmicks, without the stupid gimmicks.
Yeah. I know he trains in Singapore. So yeah, I mean, I think in one of his videos on Instagram, I actually asked if he could go. He could go to China to train, but I don't think he replied to me. He probably gets like so many replies.
Yeah. I sent that channel to beginners I know, because I always tell them, like, you just watch his channel. Like, if you don't know how to kick, if you do not know how to punch, you watch that first, because he will teach you like all the basics. That's the most important thing. Yeah. You just like, you watch like those fancy combinations or so, you're not learning anything.
Yeah, you get confused. You're like, wait a minute, how do you do that?
No, because you also you don't. That brings me back to the point with all those videos. Like, so I have to be honest. Like, I was looking for some techniques, and I was like, and it took me sometimes. I got a very cool technique out of I think it was a Stephen Casting video, and I watched it like, I don't know, maybe like 20, 30 times to see what he's doing, and then I just write it down, and I go to the gym, and I try it out, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, that works. But it takes me like so many, because it's a video, right? You have to like, so he's holding one leg here, and he's bringing the other leg here, and then so you can do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But
you from YouTube, and you got to try it out. You got to practice.
You can do that, and you can try it out, and it still doesn't mean that you because you don't like, if there's a small detail that you miss, you don't have any. It's not like you don't have a coach that you can ask now. But especially like if you can do that if you have a certain understanding of what he's doing there. But if you're a beginner, I think this is the Fight Tips channel is perfect. I mean, it's also perfect for people that are more advanced, and they, for example, he's got a very good video about the team that I watched. I was like, oh, that's cool. I learned quite a lot of stuff here. This I can do it like this, like this. There's different versions of this, but especially like if people start with martial arts, watch that, because like if you watch anything complicated, it's nice sometimes to watch, but you're not learning anything because it's complex. Like I mean, like you're not going to a class and you watch Ramsey for like a minute and you go like, oh no, I know how to do it, right? I mean, that's an illusion. You know what I mean? This is.
Yeah.
One other thing that is super important for even experienced, actually especially experienced martial artists to do, is observe the way that different coaches teach the same techniques. There's this fascinating video on YouTube. I don't remember what it's called, but it's I think it's Xande Ribeiro and another high-level black belt from Brazil. I forget, but they're comparing notes about some really basic jiu-jitsu. Like, this is the way I do it. Okay, that's cool. This is the way I do it. Why do you put your arm there instead of here? And it's the same technique, but it's a very different approach to pedagogy. And one thing I've noticed, like, there was a simple guard pass, the cross-side guard pass, but opening up the guard, for example, opening up the closed guard, that always got in the way of the cross-side guard pass for me when I was first learning. And I had like 3 different black belts, high level, very good teachers, very good instructors, break that down, and it didn't click. And then one day I was at another gym, and this guy, a white belt, he breaks it down for me in a way that totally clicks with me, very comprehensible. And I was like, whoa, you just taught me something 3 black belts couldn't. That's amazing. How did you do that? And he was like, it's just what worked for me. Yeah, but we really should expose ourselves to multiple sources of teaching for the same technique, because we'll get different ideas. Like I don't know if you know Jawad Mahmoudi. Speaking of the teep,
Oh, of course, yeah.
this guy has like the best teep I've ever seen, and it's different than the way most other people teach it, the way most other people do it, and there are a lot of effective ways to throw the teep. I'm not going to say his is the only way to do it, but it's a super effective one. But it's radically different than the way most people do it and the way most people teach it. There was, who was it? Sugar Ray Robinson said there were like 90 ways to throw a jab that he personally knew. He's like, there are at least 90 ways to throw a jab that I could teach you. And that's just one punch. Just one thing about boxing. And if you took all the basics of boxing and had like all the great coaches, all the great boxers break them down for you, you would have volumes of information to fill up about how to do those techniques. You would have so many different viewpoints. It's one of the reasons I love this 3-person podcast here, because again, we're seeing it from different views. Like that's why after we watch these videos, I say, Nils, what did you see? Jourdan, what did you see? Because we're all seeing different things. And it's a beautiful thing, a beautiful way to learn. So yeah, watch the Fight Tips channel. Watch what's his name, Stuart Tomlinson. He has an underrated like kickboxing channel that nobody watches, but it's good stuff. I mean, a lot of great channels out there like that.
Yeah,
But
there's a channel that
different
I
teachers.
watch. It's called MMA Shredded. Have you heard of them?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So because the guy Jeff, he used to train at the gym that I train in Canada, and he fought.
Okay.
He got his first pro fight in one FC, and he won. And he does a lot of good technique videos. And he actually does a technique, and then he actually does it in sparring. And he says, "This is." So yeah, I can forward you his channel. It's actually really good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll like it too, Nils. Like he breaks it down, and then he actually does it in sparring. So you actually see it works.
But by the way, John, remember that I asked you what to do about the turtle?
Okay, yeah.
Right. So I watched that.
The turtle position.
Yeah, turtle position. You know, like it's like so. And I watched that Stefan Kesting video, and I tried it out, and I had to laugh because it really works, and it's so simple. You basically get on your feet, you grab like one leg, one shoulder, you just pull him up. So he's basically like a turtle that is suddenly on his. And then sometimes you watch it, and then you go to the gym and you try it out, and you're like, that was easy.
Oh, yeah, man. Some fun stuff you can do. Like if he's wearing a belt, for example, grab the belt, boom, rip it up, deadlift him, give him the Heimlich maneuver, and they'll look at you like, what did you just do? Are you the Incredible Hulk? I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know that was physically possible.
I told that, and after I did it, I told it to some guys, and they said like, yeah, but you're not strong enough. It's like, but you get up, you know, you use your whole body structure. It also works. Yeah, that's what you're doing. So.
You lift with your knees. Yeah, just go. Boom. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next one here? We're going to watch. What is left here?
Let's take a look at another one of these. I think we have one more self-defense video and one more bad fight. Let's watch the bad fight. It's
154?
154, yeah. Okay, I think this is another one of those cases of it's a grudge match between a guy with some fighting experience, not a lot. I don't know what style he trains in. It looks like kickboxing, and a guy
traditional versus
probably trained in a traditional martial art, but no fight experience.
Okay, ready?
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Here we go. So this is somewhere in Asia. I don't know where.
Thailand, maybe?
Maybe. The guy in the t-shirt, I believe, is the traditional martial artist. The guy in the Thai boxing shorts is the kickboxer. Looks like they're wearing MMA gloves.
Touch gloves.
There we go. Well, looks like he's got a Wing Chun stance.
Is that Wing Chun?
And he got kicked in the guts right. It looks like it. He's holding his hands like that. And he just got dropped. And it's over. Referee stoppage. Smart referee stoppage right there. Case of not intelligently defending himself.
Maybe he's going to go again.
Are they going to restart it? Because I've seen a bunch of fights in Southeast Asia where they restart the fight after the dude gets knocked out. It's
only been 55 seconds, so I'm pretty sure they're going to do it again.
They're going to give him a standing 8 count.
Right,
Standing
so he
8
said-
counts were
he
abolished from
said so.
boxing in, I think, 1993.
Oh, they're
by the
doing it
way.
again. They're doing it again.
Okay. Head kick. Ooh.
Head kick.
Body kick. Right hand to the jaw.
He's not really
Leg
doing
kick.
anything. The Wing Chun guy, he's just sitting there.
Oh, man, he just got his head snapped back. And again. Are they going to give him another standing 8 count?
I think that's it, because they're taking off his gloves.
Yeah. So a lot of people on the internet would see something like this and they would say, "Oh, this is proof Wing Chun sucks," or whatever. And it's proof that no fight experience is not good in a fight. Is what it is. Like what I'm seeing, the guy comes out and he's got his stance, he's got his hands up in this position that he's been taught in this form, and there are lots of reasons to have the hands there. Like, for example, if you're holding a sword, if you're in a samurai sword fight, kendo or whatever, you would hold your hands in a similar position, keep the sword in the center line so that you can move it intelligently and whatnot. Okay, that makes sense. That's based on good, solid principles. However, if you stand there like a statue with your hands like that, as he did, left his stomach open for that opening side kick and then the head kick and the straight right, because he never moved the
He didn't even
hands.
block. He
And-
didn't do a bangzao. Like, one thing about the manzao, wunzao, right? The leading arm, the arm that sticks out, that's supposed to be like your sensor, like a whoop, like that. But he was just kind of like doing this.
Yeah, and it's easy to say he didn't do
Yeah.
this, he should have done that, he should have done that, except in your first fight, you're not going to be able to do any of that stuff, man.
Oh yeah,
If this is your first experience with violence,
So yeah, so I mean,
if this is your
It's really
first
tough.
experience with violence, you got blinders on.
yeah,
You're going in there
the adrenaline
probably blacking out, man. He's
Yeah.
high on adrenaline.
I mean,
he's experienced all kinds of crazy nerves.
Yeah. I mean,
There are all these incidentals you can't train for in that situation. Your first 10 fights are going to suck, man. And this is clearly this guy's first fight ever. And he had a rude awakening. Nils, what did you see there?
He didn't look like a master.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a young guy. How old was he? Like a teenager?
Oh,
Probably a couple of young guys having a
I thought he was
grudge
in
match.
the early 20s.
No, but basically what you
Yeah,
see,
maybe.
what you see is what you see like in a lot of fights. They always go like this. They get punched in the face, they end up on the ground, they get more punches. They eat more punches.
Yeah.
But the point to me is like talking about Wing Chun, because again, I mean, like John and me, we're not like experts on that. We just had like some time that we trained with our friend Brian. I think we just learned a lot from that. And then we also train like an MMA. And I also have to say, like, Brian is really good with Wing Chun. I think one of the issues with Wing Chun is a little bit like with Aikido. You've got some people that are really good, but just very few. You got a lot of people that suck. The Wing Chun is
Yeah.
the same.
I mean,
Um,
or it's too
what-
traditional, or they don't spar.
What I really like about it is that first it has this idea about the center line, to just really work with the center line. No, this is actually that you taught when you asked or when you mentioned that, like this video, like if someone grabs you and you just hit him in the face. I mean, that's the kind of idea behind Wing Chun. That's the easiest way to do it. You just go forward. This is where you punch. And I like a lot about the trapping, what they call the buchi. I think it's more a system for like a close, like if we are like in a room and we get into a situation and I just trap you and I start punching you, I think this is what it's for. But I use some elements that I learned in Wing Chun, and it was a good time like in Shanghai because I could try that out.
Yeah.
And what I kept was again this idea to always go forward. To trapping, I mean, you can't do the trapping like in an Ip Man movie. You can only do that in a very short amount of time. But I also learned that, like a lot of people in sparring, they never trap. That's one of the things that I find really interesting. When you do that, they often get confused, but it gives you like this small moment that you can use. So there's some elements that you can use. The issue to me was the stance. The stance is too static. Because I tried it out, right? Like, so I had to adjust because you have to be fast. And you can't do that if you have this old Chinese traditional Wing Chun stance. The other issue is the putting your arms forward. I did that at the JX Fight Club in the beginning, and it worked great, but only with people that are smaller than me. And then you remember all our guys from the Ukraine?
Igor.
Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus! I got punched in the face.
Those
Like
Russians
I was.
Ukrainians, man, tough dudes.
There was like, what was his name here? No. The Chinese student, like
Italy.
No, like Roy. Roy was standing next to us when we were fighting, and because I was freezing because I was standing there like this, and Igor has this Roy Jones attitude, and he's moving, and he's like, I got punched in the face, and Roy's like you have to change, you have to do something, but I was freezing. I was like, shit, that doesn't work. It isn't working. Like I got punched, I got beaten up by him, and this is when I changed it because I understood it only works if you got someone that his arms are smaller than yours. But in that case, it was like this. He was dancing around me. I got beaten up. And he's really good. I mean, he's just a really good boxer. So the next time I was sparring with him, the only way that I could survive was moving. I had to move all the time, and I had to punch him. I couldn't wait. Just stand there and see what he was doing. I just got beaten up otherwise. And to me, that's the issue why those fights always end the same way. Whatever video you watch, it's always the same thing. They're standing there, they wait for the other person to do something. So I don't know what they want to do, like do some fancy stuff. And then you always see that the other person is kicking or punching. And basically the arms are here and they're useless. And I've seen that again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, this has its advantages and disadvantages, right? So, disadvantages, it leaves you open, whereas here, you're more close. But this also has disadvantages as well. So sometimes you gotta adjust. Right? So.
Oh man, the thing about Igor, man, he was one of my favorite sparring partners. That dude could box, he could kickbox, very aggressive, very technical. And he taught me a lot about the Russian boxing tradition, is that there's no room for, I wish I hadn't said Russian boxing tradition, but there's no room for relying on tradition. It's 100% pragmatic. You put your feet in a certain place because you can reach the other guy that way. You use the technique because you can hit the guy. If it doesn't work, they don't do it, basically. I remember one time I was hitting the bag and Igor comes up to me and he says, very apologetically, he's like, Coach, with all due respect, your kicking is excellent, your grappling amazing, but your right hand, the way you throw your straight right, is not right. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I mean, I've been doing it this way for years. He's like, I do not mean to insult. I just want to help. And he's like, yeah, okay. If you can help, show me what's going on. He showed me this tiny little step, which is very indicative of the way Russian boxers train. If you train this way around a lot, not all, but a lot of American boxers or boxing coaches, they'll start screaming at you about how you're unbalanced and you're doing it wrong. But he showed me this tiny little falling step with the right hand, the straight right, in combination, the 1-2 combination. I was like, holy crap, I can suddenly put that together, and it clicked, and now I'm able to reach people with my right hand. And one of the hardest combinations to land in boxing is the 1-2, the jab straight, the jab cross, right? It's the first one everyone learns, and it's the hardest one to land because most people don't teach the correct footwork. And he taught me the correct footwork for that combination, and it clicked, and I was like, thank you. You just leveled up my striking game by like 100% just with that 1-2. Yeah. But it's so incredibly important to be open-minded about martial arts and to step out of the system for a moment, to step out of your own paradigm of everything must be so. I must hold my hands rigid in a certain place, basically. And just be open for the fact that sometimes there's a time and a place for this, and sometimes there's not.
Yeah. By the way, all those Eastern European guys, they all knew how to fight. I always found that interesting. And I was always wondering, what do they eat like?
Every
they always
last One of them.
Yeah. One's from Kazakhstan, especially. They're so strong.
Yes. All the Kazakhs, man. Do you
remember
remember Anela? Yeah.
Maxime? Or like,
Maxime,
I don't think he's
yeah.
I don't think he's Kazakhstan. I think he was from
Maxime
Belarus.
was from Belarus, actually.
Yeah, that's Belarus.
Man,
Yeah.
awesome guy, man. One of my
I knew a
favorite
lot of
sparring partners as well.
These guys.
Yeah, Toleo Khan was from Kazakhstan. Annie was from Kazakhstan.
Annie.
That other dude I'm blanking on his name was.
Anelia? She's from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, do you
The
remember
fashion
Anela?
Remember her?
Yeah, the fashion designer.
She's a little girl. She's like
Tall, skinny, pretty woman, young. Man, there was this crazy time. So I never really thought of Anila as like a fighter. I thought like, okay, she's a girl coming in here to train because, reasons. But then one day, because she's always grappling against guys twice her size and getting squished a little bit, because that's what happens when you fight giants. Okay, this new girl comes in to try out the class. I pair her up with Anela for light sparring. Anela shoots in, gets a body lock, swings around the back, suplexes the new girl. Once they hit the ground, spins around at the arm bar. And I was like, Anela, I had no idea you even knew those moves. And she said, well, of course you've never seen it. I'm always fighting giants in this class. Now that I have someone my own size to pick on, I can do this. And I was like, oh, that's right, you're from Kazakhstan. The new girl never came back, of course, but she just... But man...
This is actually like what Jourdan said as well, and you said the same about the States. Like, when I came back here, I was sparring, and those guys was like, "Why are you guys all so heavy?" Like this is how I know how they feel. Like because you think like, yeah, I'm not small or so, but then you got those guys with like you're on the ground, you're like,
yeah. I also like Chinese people. They're much lighter. They're smaller. But in Germany, they're much taller. They're heavier. Like, it's different when I'm rolling with you guys.
Yeah,
I have that. 20 kgs or something.
Yeah, I was like,
longer too. It's like Dawson from Street Fighter.
Yeah, man, it's the same thing in the U.S. In the U.S., I always thought of myself as the small guy. I was usually like the smallest guy in the room. Like right now, I'm 6'1", 185 centimeters tall, and about 93 kilograms. And in the U.S., that was the smallest guy in the room usually. Here in China, I'm a giant. It's crazy. Well, not everybody. There are very tall Chinese people, obviously, but on average, they're significantly smaller than 205 pounds and 6'1", right? So it's a weird cultural phenomenon. Like going in one country, you're a giant, you're the biggest guy in the room, and in another country, you're average or sub-average, size-wise.
The roles are switched.
Yeah.
But by the way,
that works.
Oh, now you look that down.
I by the way, I learned something really interesting. Remember, I sent you that video where I was sparring with the instructor.
Oh yeah.
He throws me to the ground all the time. And by the way, like one time you hear me make a noise, like my back hurt for like 2 days. But what I noticed and what I tried out then the last time I sparred with him, the only way what he's doing, because he was a semi-pro, what I learned is that he just goes for it. I mean, like this is because you spar with a gi, right? So you can grab to something. You just don't wait for like to get into a position or so. You just pull it. You know what I mean? Or push it. You just like 100% commitment. That's what I learned about it. Like sometimes it's interesting if you spar with new people, and in that like here it's also because the rules change because suddenly you got a gi or so. But I found it really interesting, like how it changes if you just commit to what you want to do. Instead of just want to do a throw, you just use all your body weight and the other guy's body weight, and you just use aggression. It's just pure aggression. This is how you pull people to the ground.
Put some violence in your violence, man. Put some violence in your violence.
Especially for a throw. It's not something you can hold back. You gotta.
Yeah, because like in that video, you see like how many times did he throw me? And he did that all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
He was a big guy. He seemed taller than you and like heavier.
Nah. No, I just made a mistake, and I told him like he said like, well, I'm tired, and I said like, I just want to show some friends like how how you spar. So and then I think he just wanted to show you how he spars, and then it was just like.
This is what happens when you come here.
No, but it's exactly what Ramsey says. You just put aggression into it. And sometimes because we always think about it, it is technique, right? But sometimes just like this extra thing is just once you have them, don't just wait for you just use all your body weight. You just pull and push and use aggression, and that's how suddenly, like in that case, I was just ending on the ground all the time. So put some aggression into your aggression.
Putting violence in your violence, it's like putting fuel into an engine, right? Because technique is it's like building the machine, right? Putting your hands and your feet in the right place and all that, but that's not enough to win a fight, right? Like that kid in that sparring video we just saw, he puts his hands here because that's what he's being taught by his instructor. That's the right place to put your hands according to Wing Chun law or whatever. But there's no violent intent behind that. There's no violence in his violence. He's not there trying to.
He was physically there, but
trying to physically hurt the other guy. Yeah.
By the way, like Ramsey, because you've been a professional fighter, and like in this case, the guy was a semi-pro. So what he explained to me at the end, he said like, I just want to end the fight as fast as possible. I forgot like he had like a record of like he was fighting a really good guy. I forgot like how many seconds it took him to end the fight because that was his mindset. It wasn't just play around with the other guy; he just wanted to win. So I think that's the other point. It's like what is your mindset? Like, do you go inside to win, or you go inside to see what happens,
or to represent a style? Which is one of the most dangerous mindsets, I think. Yeah, that's how a lot of these bad fights start on the internet. People argue Wing Chun is better than Kung Fu, Kung Fu is better than karate, Muay Thai is better than what you do, right? And so they stage these fights where they're representing a style, and one of those guys goes in with the mentality of I'm going to beat this guy up, and the other guy's like I'm going to represent my style or what.
I'm not doing anything. Just stand there and look nice.
But I do understand the mentality, though. I get it because, I started off in Taekwondo. Taekwondo was, that was my main martial art back in the day. I mean, I trained in other styles, but Taekwondo was like my thing, and I felt like I needed to represent my clan. I needed to represent my club. I needed to represent my cult, the cult of Taekwondo, if you will. And so I wanted to be like the Taekwondo guy in professional kickboxing. I remember seeing this highlight reel of this guy named Serkan Yilmaz back in the day. He had a few professional fights, and he had a very exciting highlight reel with all these cool spinning Taekwondo kicks, and all the Taekwondo nerds on the internet shared this because he did what they wanted to do. He did these fancy kicks in the ring, in a professional fight, in a high-profile competition. Okay, even though he didn't have a big, long career, he had a few fights, he had a number of losses. Not a very prolific fighter, but super exciting highlight reel. And I remember seeing this thinking, I want to be like that. I want to represent Taekwondo like that. And I went out there, got in some fights, got my face punched in a lot by these guys who were better boxers than me. And I was like, it took a long time before the cognitive dissonance was able to go away, before I was able to separate that, the power fantasy, the childishness, from the reality of I need to learn what they're doing to beat me before I can beat them. Instead of just holding on to this, I must represent my style, must represent the banner of my gym or whatever. It's silly. It is so silly to think that way in a fight where the sole objective should be win. Beat the other guy up more than he beats you up. Right? Styles don't win fights. Styles don't work in fights. Work wins fights. And when I finally had this epiphany and I realized I need to learn what that guy who's beating me up is doing so that never happens again, that's when the turnaround started happening. Oh man, that was magical. So if I could time travel back in time and just shake myself like, you don't have to give up Taekwondo. You don't have to hate Taekwondo. You don't have to think traditional martial arts are silly. By no means. But you need to expand your mind and include other things as well. Yes, you need to cross-train.
Yeah.
Learn how to box. Learn how to wrestle. You know.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Kicking, boxing. Very important. Should we look at the last video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
let's watch that last one.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, this last one came highly requested. This one was being passed around Facebook. It's the one that's got this girl with light brown hair and a tank top, black tank top. Like the thumbnail is like 4 different panels. She's biting the arm. Do you see that one?
Yeah. 1 minute 40
7 self-defense.
Okay. And this one, if I remember correctly, it's kind of a mixed bag. There are a couple of things in here which are like, okay, that's a pretty decent rule of thumb, and other things that are just like, Anyway, let's take a look. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, she got grabbed from behind in the bear hug. She bites the guy's hand. Actually, okay, this is a sampler of what we're about to see. 7 self-defense techniques. Woman's walking along. Man's like, hey, miss, I think you... and she just knees him in the groin. Okay. All right, that would definitely hurt, but my question is, was that actually a violent altercation? Okay, 2-handed rape choke, comes up through the middle, and then gouges the eyes. This one, you know, that's okay if he's standing there. Pummel to the inside. If you're in a clinch, pummel to the inside. That's a good rule of thumb. Another nonsense hair grab thing. In slow motion. And seriously, this hair grab stuff, you got to watch like Real World versus Krav Maga. It's a great video about hair grabs. Okay, the bear hug, the backward, and you're gonna give yourself some brain damage headbutting people from the back like that. All right, she taps him with the heel on the shin. He lets go. Oh, this is a wrist grab from behind. That's a new move. All right, this one right there. You know, like 2 hands against one, using the elbow to break the grip. That one's not the worst. I've been able to pull that one off. Biting the arm. Okay, there's Nils' technique right there, pushing the face. That's one of the more effective ones I've seen. Not even as a palm strike. Just push the face, lift the nose. I mean, if you strike, bonus points. Anyway, this is from the bright side. So again, kind of a mixed bag of techniques. Some good tips, some not so good tips. Jourdan, let's start with you. What did you see there? The pros and the cons of this video.
I thought it's a lot better than the other one we saw from the first one we saw.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, I feel like those ones, the one we just saw, it definitely can work like a palm strike. And maybe running away could work. So, but at the same time, again, because you can't expect it to go smoothly. Like the hair grab, I always notice one of them is always duck. It's always, you know, and like But I mean, I wouldn't say it's awesome, but I wouldn't say that video we just saw was crap. It's much better than the other ones that we've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10. Maybe.
6.5 out of 10. Okay, that sounds fair.
Yeah. Nils?
How about you, Nils? What did you see there?
I saw her kicking wearing high heels. That impressed me.
Imagine running in those. I can imagine that must.
The one with the wrist lock, I doubt that works. I mean, there's some stuff that works. But I just never understand why they have to look like that. Like it's always like this, like the way that they're dressed up.
Yeah. I think to try and make it like realistic. Like, so if you're a woman wearing high heels like this, instead of wearing a gi or gym clothes and yoga pants.
Still, I just don't know how much you can really learn from that if you never did that. You really watch that on your phone and then you pull that off. I don't know. Like. I still believe the only thing you can that's what I believe. I couldn't teach women self-defense a beginner because then you have to understand a little bit how to do that, like how to teach them what to teach them, and I never did that. So Not an expert on that. The only thing that I think you have to do is just teach them aggression. That's kind of what it, I guess, comes down to.
Yeah, it seemed like in that video, that woman had aggression. It wasn't like a bang.
But I guess
But at the same time, you gotta follow up. You can't just rely on that. You can't just be like, bang, okay, I'm done.
yeah, that's what I say. I just don't think this is
Bang,
this is
bang.
enough. But I think I had enough of those videos for today.
Yeah, those videos.
Yeah,
are
one thing that was sure, man. One thing that was consistent about this, not just this, but like almost all women's self-defense videos, is that they show a very quick solution. The fight's going to be over in this quick. If it's going to be over that fast, if you land this hit and this kick, and then you can walk away. And that's what the woman did every time. She landed a couple of hits and then walked away. Okay, here's what I've actually seen in real fights, real street altercations, real attacks caught on CC, closed circuit cameras, whatever they're called. Somebody starts punching, somebody starts hitting, the other person ups the ante and starts hitting more and starts hitting harder. And then it escalates. It escalates into something crazy. Increases. Yes, the intensity increases. It doesn't diminish. It only increases. So unless those strikes incapacitate, unless they knock them out, unless they cripple that person, which they usually don't, it simply escalates the level of violence. So to teach, if you throw 2 strikes, you can walk away every time. It is incredibly disingenuous.
I mean, there's some street fighting videos that I've seen on YouTube where sometimes like a mugger will try to do something, and then the attacker will actually just like attack back, fight back, and a lot of times the robber will just be like, "Oh, okay," and then they'll just walk away. But again, it's not just one hit. It's not like a bang and then they do it. It takes like multiple counter strikes.
They're met with aggression, man.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of boxing. I'm a big fan of kickboxing. I really like this. I love it. But what I always preferred about MMA is that you can just bring the other guy to the ground and end the fight. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not just say like, we do that for 2 or 3 minutes and we just punch each other in the face. You have this chance to just bring it to the ground and end the fight. So it's this mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an amazing mindset, man.
Than MMA, because boxing, there's so many hits. Because a lot of people, they always think, well, a lot of people that I speak to who are not into MMA, but when they just watch UFC, they always assume MMA is more dangerous because you can kick the head. But I think boxing is it's far more dangerous because the amount of hits that you get is just straight to the head.
Yeah, man.
It's
MMA
because
gives you a face-saving exit.
Yeah.
Or the potential for a face-saving exit. So stop the fight or I'll kill you. Okay. I'm done. And then everybody's happy. Nobody has to die. It's to the death, but nobody has to die. It's great.
Awesome. Yeah, so much for bullshit videos for today. Oh, man.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, let's... I'd say this has been a fairly successful conversation. Hey, thanks for coming out and having this chat. And man,
next time we'll
I just can't help but wonder. This whole time I've been wondering, what would Captain Krav Maga say in these situations, man? We have to know.
I'll ask him right now. I'll ask him.
Yeah, Nils, you're gonna have to ask Captain Krav Maga for.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
We can get him on the line. Give us a few fight tips of his own.
I think it's something around poking the eyes and hitting the groin or something. Well, I'll ask him.
6 minutes of knees, 12 minutes of karate kicks.
I guess so.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. All right, guys. All right. Well, excellent conversation. To the folks watching at home, thanks for watching. Get out there and train.